out on this thing?
Well, we want to welcome you to our Hooper City Council work meeting. It is 5:35 and we're going to go ahead and get started. Before we do, someone dropped this off at the office that is to the mayor and city council. It's a concern. It's not on our agenda, so we can't discuss it, but I would like you to look through it. And I think we will end up putting this in our newsletter. It's a concern about youth that are late night door ditching, and it is causing some concern with some older residents. So look through this, because I think this is something that we can, like I mentioned, put this on, in our newsletter. And if it is something that you feel like as a council, we just got this just not too long before the meeting, and so it wasn't time to mail it out to you sooner. But see if you feel like, if this is something you feel like we should formally do something, then we'll put it on our next agenda and talk about it. So
well, this is one of those letters that I'll actually read and pay attention to. The ones that people don't sign, I never read them.
Yeah, no, they put their names on here,
So-
their email addresses of what they do. I saw a little bit about this on one of the social media posts. So I think some education is always good, you know, and I'd already mentioned to Morgan about let's have this put on our,
Fair enough. Yeah, anybody that'll sign their name, I'll be happy to read their
yeah.
comments and concerns. So.
Okay, and then like you say, if there's anything you want us to do further, then let me know and we'll put it on the agenda. So our next agenda that is in August, our first one in August, I believe it's the 6th, August 6th. The only thing we can do at that meeting is our truth and taxation. So we can't have any other business on that meeting at all. And so the next time we will actually have a meeting that we can be discussing for the Hooper City business will be on August 20th. So just know it would be till August 20th before we could move this to the agenda.
Okay.
So, okay.
So, Sherry, did everybody get the email from Weber County Fair?
I did.
Weber County Fair?
Weber County Fair is that night also.
On August 6th?
That's the night they are allowing us to go to the,
The bullfight?
it's
No.
the monster truck. And
Oh,
the
yes.
dinner.
Yes, I did too get that.
I didn't.
I saw it, and I think when I saw that it was the same date, I just figured we've had this date set and we need to do it or we won't be able to do the truth and taxation. And that's probably about the same time too, is it, Ryan?
7:00.
Well, maybe we'll be done.
yeah.
It's a public hearing, so you don't know. We may have more residents that show up. You know, we'll certainly start advertising that here.
So are we voting on anything that night or just letting the residents come and?
So the residents come and we have to, it will actually be a vote. So far we only have the preliminary budget. That would have to be the night that we vote on a final budget after the truth and taxation.
So I think we're all in accord on that anyway, aren't we? I'm just saying, Ryan, if that's something you and your family's gonna do that night,
I just didn't know how many of us actually got tickets.
Well, I signed up for the tickets.
oh, did we?
You have until July 31st to do it.
Oh,
But also, I thought nothing else could be going on.
Well, you can't have any other truth and taxation meetings that night. So it had to be a separate meeting from the school district's doing one, the sewer board, the fire board,
Okay.
Weber County. You cannot have two truth and taxation meetings on the same night because they don't want residents to feel like they're having to choose.
But that's what I'm curious. Is this big enough because it's like Weber County's biggest event? Would this qualify as something that is happening that is preventing residents from attending the truth and taxation?
It could, but we already had to establish this date a few months ago, so.
Yeah, this came out after.
It came out
we set
after.
up the-
Yeah,
Okay.
but maybe we'd be done, and residents could still go to that after. They have the dinner first, and it usually takes a little while for them to serve everybody anyway.
Well, they changed it this time. They said, please come support our food truck vendors, because I don't think.
Oh,
they're
that's
having a dinner,
right.
But they're having an event.
Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because that's what I saw, and it said about the food truck.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay,
I text Ray. I'll bet he thinks it starts at 6.
probably. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we had a little longer work meeting because it never feels like we have time to get everything done that we need to. And so you should all have had a copy in your package of the pressurized irrigation. This is our ordinance. One thing that's pretty interesting about this was when we were looking this up, this ordinance actually falls, it's in Title 6, Chapter 5, under Health and Sanitation. So I think when we are looking at this ordinance and if there's any changes we want to make, because currently the way this sits, this isn't even under a land use policy, where I feel like if any changes are, if we did talk about this and think there needs to be, that would be my suggestion, is we end up moving it probably under our Title 10, what you feel like. So it is something that would go to Planning Commission for them to give some feedback and then come back to us. But I always like to talk about things first in a work meeting so I, can get a feel of a discussion, whether this is something you feel like we should do or not. So I'll just give you a couple of suggestions, or I've thought of as I've gone through. So again, that was one of my first ones. So no, this is Title 6, not under land use. And when we talk about this chapter under health and sanitation, then it's talking about inside and outside water, which makes sense, but I'm still not quite sure why this wouldn't be under, I thought it would be under our subdivision ordinance, but it's not. Some things I thought that we should probably be looking at, because there could be here in our future to have some commercial sites within the city of Hooper. And right now, with this ordinance, we are requiring developers to install pressure irrigation systems in all subdivisions and commercial sites. We could have some commercial sites that could come in that could possibly take a span of 25 acres, and under current regulations, it's 1 share per acre to turn into secondary, but they could possibly have 5 trees and 6 bushes.
It's just a half a share per acre though.
Well, currently what theirs is up to an acre. What the last they gave me was a share per acre, but we could verify that. Hello. Anyway, so
our kids was, could either turn, where we've just done them, they could turn in a full share per acre, like you're saying, or they can turn in a half a share and pay, is it $5,000?
Yeah, if they're gonna pay for the hook, that's for the hookup fee.
Okay, so
the water
they
is just a
turn,
half.
because the shares are so expensive,
Yeah.
I gave them half a share, and then they paid the 5,000 or
For the
whatever.
hookup fee.
yeah, but so that was one area I thought. Hello, Darren. Happy to have you here. We're just talking about the first thing on our work agenda, as far as the pressurized. Anyway, that was one thing that we might want to look into that, because we might need to have a different standard in this ordinance for commercial developments versus residential, because they really maybe won't be having irrigation. You look, for example, like the Holiday Station up on the corner of 43 and 55, and it's pretty much all rocks, and a lot of the commercials are. And so, I thought that was one
So are
area.
you saying like for developers who might not want to use irrigation like that, it wouldn't, what do we do currently if a developer doesn't want to use irrigation?
Well, we haven't given them
They
a
still have
choice
to,
because
they still have to turn in the share whether they're using it or not.
Our code requires it. They have to use irrigation.
Even if they're doing xeriscape and have nothing to wet, they just have to wet the rocks?
They have to have a connection if it's available.
Okay.
They don't have to use it, I suppose, if they don't want to use it.
Yeah, because last time we were talking about like the flip the strip thing and all of that stuff and conservation, and I'm just curious if somebody chooses to build that way and builds with xeriscape, under our current ordinance, we'd still force them to hook up the water even if they're never spraying anything down. That's
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, they would need to connect. The subdivision would need a secondary system, which would likely would have a connection to each lot.
okay. So there's no exception planning
No,
commission.
that's
for
why I'm
that.
thinking we
Yep,
probably
no,
need
that's
to look
great.
at
That's
this
what I was
and
trying to
see
wrap
if
my
there's
head
some
around.
changes that we want to make, because the dialogue in this, it'll say required, this ordinance is to require.
Yeah,
I think to take
So-
your thought process just a step further
please.
would just be outside irrigation is typically been provided through secondary water.
Mm-hmm.
And the alternative would be culinary water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand there are new, landscaping methods that don't require any, but very few that don't require at least drip systems.
Mm-hmm.
So an alternative would have to be culinary, I suppose, so that would be something that,
We could consider. Okay.
So did I read in here, I think, that unless they, like a farmer had irrigation water coming down, then they would be exempt from that if they had the water coming down there? Is that true?
For like a development?
Yeah, or, yeah, I just thought there was so much this week that I read through last night.
Shall
but I
not
was,
apply to owners who lawfully use water from a well or canal to irrigate
Okay.
their property.
so
Yeah.
could we just add in there, or culinary water?
You're saying, so instead of rewriting this thing, we would put it under the exception? That would be that'd be an option that we could write it under the exception.
Yeah, just throwing stuff out, yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that at, Darren?
It's 656.
656.
The exception, okay.
So on the 652, and these are just a couple of things that we're not requiring them to do. So if we're not, then we shouldn't have them in our ordinance. So it says that, if you go about halfway through that paragraph on 652, that it says the developer must ensure each lot is connected as part of their development agreement with the city. Well, not all developments have development agreements, and yet in our ordinance, we're requiring that as part of their development agreement. So that's probably something that should be changed too, because if we're not requiring a development agreement, we can't require them to do that if it's not even a development agreement, if that makes sense. So I think this was verbiage that was put in that we don't always do. And then it talks about they must install a dry system, and we haven't required them to do that. So again, we need to look at that, and if this is going to be our ordinance, we either make them do it or we take it out.
Well, if we're not making them do it, then we need to take it out, yeah.
Yeah. And so then, again, down the next one, 6.5 are required to connect unless exempted by the city administrators for a minor subdivision. But we haven't been exempting anyone either. Even when someone's coming and putting in a subdivision and it's only a one lot subdivision, we have still been requiring them to either turn in their water, like you did with your son, which would have been considered a minor subdivision, or turn in a half a share and pay the difference. So again, I think we have a lot of stuff in here that we're not doing
So-
anyway.
No, I'm just trying to think of our city. Does anybody know a single person that doesn't use secondary water? Or irrigation water?
Where,
Just people who don't have it available.
yeah,
Just West Hooper that doesn't have a pressurized
But
system.
they have irrigation water.
Some
no,
of them use
Some of them-
culinary for their yards.
they use culinary.
They have to get approval though from culinary for sure, which is a broader application would be interesting.
For landscaping.
Yeah, and
Yes.
a broader application than just one-offs that don't have it would be an interesting discussion, right? I don't know how, they would let us.
Because we had that one lot that went in on 6,700 that secondary is not available there.
Right.
That they still were required to turn in the share of water.
Aren't minor subdivisions 2 lots or one, either one?
It-
One-
Three.
It can be up to 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
it used to be 2.
So, legal
Yeah.
question, Darren. This exemption under 653 that says, unless exempted by the city administrators for a minor subdivision, that's an exception, right? So it says unless so that's interesting, unless exempted, which means that therefore that language would let us exempt. But they say, I know we're hearing no one has ever been exempted, but it's in our code that
Right.
We could.
we could.
Yeah, that's what the words say, and I think we could argue it that yes, that's what it's saying. Or is it saying
After it
Unless
becomes
exempted.
available.
unless exempted because of 656? But it doesn't say that specifically.
Right, it doesn't say that specifically.
So, I guess someone could argue both. But
And where this is under, I don't know, Darren, if you were here when I mentioned this at the beginning, this is actually under Title VI, under Health and Sanitation. So it doesn't even fall under the land
the
use.
land use.
No, so probably it's never been exempted because this has never been brought up when it's came to a development, because Planning Commission hasn't even they don't look at this. I mean, they do look at it, but they shouldn't have, because it doesn't even fall under one of their
I
codes.
think this exemption is a little think we're taking a little different direction than what this means. After it becomes available though, they're required to hook up within 30 days.
Unless exempted,
they've been exempted.
right, that's what I'm saying.
So,
So if I was reading this and I was building something and I read this code, I would say, well, it says unless exempted by the city administrators. First, who's the city administrator? Is that anybody that works at the front desk? And can they exempt me? And then I'd be trying to figure out how do I get the application for this exemption?
What qualifies as the city administrator?
Yeah,
The only thing that in here says that there would be an exception would be the 656. So,
Yeah.
653.
yeah.
I just think that this all yields to the fact that we probably got to clean this up.
we
a
gotta
little.
change things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need to at least make it more
Noted.
clear.
What, another ordinance we
No.
need to correct? Come on.
No, me and Nick are, as we are working on things, we'll see them and we're starting
Sure.
to do that more. We're gonna
Thank you.
have lots of changes here coming up, so this is just one, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I had talked to Hooper Water.
Hmm?
Oh, go ahead,
Oh, yeah.
Ryan.
He was saying, can we move this to the land use?
Yeah, it
Our-
should be.
Our land use needs to have a complete overhaul. It's very hard to make it through that code, so I think that's something we're working on. So it could be added in for sure.
Well, we had a hard time even finding it because I'd asked Malcolm and he sent it to me. And then when I looked, I said, where even is this? I don't know why this was ever under health and sanitation. That makes no sense to me. And so then you go down to the next section where it says 654 about developers required to escrow funds or the actual water shares. And I think that's what you were talking about. They either had to escrow the funds but it also says in here they can do that, the actual shares with the city or with the applicable water company, and we've never allowed them to do it with the city, but in our ordinance they could have. So we could have been holding the water shares
But if
or
we do hold
holding
them, we
the
have to pay
escrow.
interest on that too, correct?
We should have
Somebody
been.
escrows money to us, we're supposed to pay
Yeah,
2% or something like that.
yeah,
We shouldn't be holding their money for free, neither should anybody else really for that
Yeah.
matter, I don't think.
yeah. But some of these, and from talking to Cole, Alan down at Hooper Culinary, he said this culinary would really be fine if for numbers like 3, 4, and 5, if we referred them to the culinary rather than us requiring them to turn in that share. Because, for example, like commercial, or if it was a Xeriscape or a patio home or something that they could provide the water to, that should probably be someone has to provide water, plain and simple, either culinary or secondary. Someone has to. But
But commercials use almost no secondary, in fact, our largest potential commercial people have said, they're not putting any grass in anywhere and maybe a couple trees. That would be almost ludicrous for them to turn in a whole bunch of water shares that they're never, ever going to use.
Yeah. Well, okay, so from going through this then, this is just a discussion, nothing that we can decide, but I felt like this is something we should discuss to see if, and I feel like we need to do some revisions on this. It has a lot of things that we're not really,
I think the spirit of it underlying should be maybe even it was a stretch, but I'd assume health and sanitation was likely for the appearance of the homes, you know what I mean, the actual functionality of the lawn, the vegetation, the look, dust, etc. But if you don't have water, obviously there are problems. So the spirit of this should be, in maybe like with water shares, for instance, if someone has to provide water, and that has to be verified for outside irrigation, to the extent that people can build a home that looks good.
Well, I know there was a health and sanitation consideration on my spot because the box was designed to where you could switch from secondary to culinary, but was asked to be removed because it could cross,
Cross-contaminate.
and it could contaminate the internal house. So when I bought the house, hey, can I use culinary for this? It was, well, we intended to build it that way, but we were told we had to remove that out because of sanitation, because of health. And so I wonder if that had some component.
Probably.
I mean, my house was built in the early 2000s when we became a city, so maybe it was around the time where we started thinking if people are using culinary irrigation, we need to kind of set up a specific route.
They make a,
Check valve.
yeah, for that, but they have to be, because we have one
Yeah.
in Ogden, and.
Just a
we-
backflow type thing.
Yeah, backflow,
Yeah.
that's what it is. We have to have backflow test. Every
Inspected,
12
yep,
months.
right. That would make sense.
Then send it in.
Mine was just apparently told, take it out, because we didn't want to take the risk, which is fine, as before I bought the house, but, I just wondered, I mean, that's the only thing I could think in anecdotally that crossed over. Health and sanitation was commingling those waters.
Well, and I believe, we also have in part of our our subdivisions, they have salon de do landscaping. But if we don't, like this year, if we don't really have water, and we are in a drought, I think there's things we need to look at. Because we always say we're in a drought this year, well, we may be in one next year too.
Might be in a worse one, you know?
I mean, we hope not, but I think we need to make sure our ordinances are up to date, that they are fitting what needs to be done. So like, I mentioned, we don't want a commercial to come and then say, oh, this is taking 25 acres, give us 25 shares of water. And the commercial development says, like, we're gonna have a drip system to, well, I don't know, Holiday up there maybe has 15 bushes, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
they
they don't
would easily
need,
could do that off a culinary, it wouldn't
Yes,
even,
they could.
wouldn't even affect them.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, maybe if you have any, what would be best, Darren, to send you any suggestions? You want just some chance to look through this, and we'll address this then in a meeting when you have
Yeah, I
something?
think we should probably work with Malcolm in moving it over to 10. We would want to know really what you guys want. I can do a proposal, but I'm not you guys. So
Can we tell you what we want in a work meeting, or do you need to hear that on an agenda?
you can say it in a work meeting. You can say it right now what you want, what changes you would want on it.
So let me ask you this question. When you make these changes like this one here, if we just says, Darren, go take care of it, do you go pull up your favorite city and look
a lot
at
of
the
times.
ordinance and do
My
it?
favorite cities, yeah.
I mean, my suggestion would be, okay, go ahead and
See what I come back with.
Yes.
see what you come back with.
That's okay.
because-
So you kind of know where we're headed out here, basically.
Is where you're kind of heading, and I've summarized it, is it that you would
Yeah.
like to add optionality?
Yeah.
People could
Yeah.
use culinary if it's approved.
Okay.
Is that the idea? People could
Honestly,
use secondary
I
or
think so.
culinary as long as they had a will serve letter prior to approval.
Is there
Is that
a
the
reason why
direction?
we wouldn't want to do that? Was there a reason, do you know historically, why we didn't want to offer a culinary option?
I know
I
it
don't
becomes-
know even today that the culinary, Hooper Water District is willing to do that yet, today. So they've gotta have
A say in it?
a say in this.
Yeah, they do.
So we would need will
And they
serve
would.
for sure, 'cause
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
assurance.
I think some cities push for it because they've let culinary,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's complaints that it's too expensive. I think I've said that to you guys in the past. That was something that happened in another city I was covering.
Yeah, it's expensive.
So then they were like, well, we just want irrigation, and they complained to the city like it was our fault, like we need to give them
Yeah.
the opportunity to do irrigation, and
Yeah,
so that was a big to-do, and it really wasn't the city's fault.
sure.
But
Well, I mean, with this 2-day-a-week restriction, I called culinary and said, can I spot water? And they were like, we have more than enough water. They were like, you'll pay for it, but
Well,
we
we
have
had a
more than.
meeting with them a while back,
Yeah.
and they told us they.
So I just hooked
actually
it to the house with the
are
hose,
only
right?
using 20% of their available water right now for culinary,
Yeah.
roughly.
But that-
Why
that's
are they
just-
pushing the other two wells so hard?
I don't know. That's just what they told me. Yeah.
Future preparations, I
Pushing
don't
the
know.
other two wells
I would
in
guess
the year.
planning for the future, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just anecdotal. Like I just called them and said, hey, can I spot water off the house? And would that be an issue? And they said, we got plenty of water to do
Well,
it.
I don't think cost effective, it's gonna be realistic for anybody that has a large yard, it's not gonna be cost effective.
No.
You know, the secondary water is gonna be a way better deal for them in that situation. Even at 2 days a week, it's still gonna be a better deal than hooking up the culinary. And there are a lot of people out here, and I talk to people in the culinary districts that are smoking $500 a month to water their lawns off of culinary, which blew my mind, but there are a lot that do that. Now, does that make sense? No, but it's their money, so I don't care.
So that's my question. Like, why would it have to, like, does it need to be an ordinance? I mean, I don't need the government to tell me how I can spend my money, right? So does it need to be an ordinance that says, well, I want to save you money, so you're forced to not have the option?
No.
Like, that's why I'm wondering, is there anything that prohibited us from giving people the option, and then they gotta deal with culinary on it.
No, and if they decide to do that, I think we owe it to them to just say, you know, be
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe
Well-
only, go ahead, Judy.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we did, some rough estimates, and by the time you take what you pay for buying a share, you pay the connection fee, they figured it's about 25 years of paying for culinary to water an acre before you'd ever break even with
Yeah,
what.
that makes sense.
Well,
So,
and again, that would rotate on how much you water. For instance, the guy that used to live on the corner west of me watered every day. Okay?
Yeah.
But he didn't care. I mean, his lawn was actually swampy. And the guy that bought the house recently took out half the lawn, put in gravel, and said, "This is crazy. I don't want this much lawn." So,
yeah, but I think like you said,
Yeah,
David, it
give
probably
the
should be an
Yeah,
option.
I think the only maybe broader potential risk, like I know Bonta Vista, and you can't compare Bonta Vista and Hooper Water, so
Sure.
I'm not trying to make that direct comparison, but
Yeah.
they're similar. They have that resolution that you gave, zero irrigation, nothing, no drip, nothing,
Mhm.
so they won't permit it at all. So if you had homes, right, and I think it's more likely that Hooper Water would have a resolution like that than Hooper Irrigation, whose sole purpose is to provide irrigation
That's
water.
fair, yeah.
So if at some point you had permitted culinary and then by no decision of yours, a separate entity like Cooper Water created a resolution to no more culinary use, then you would have homes that could have effectively no green.
it wouldn't be like grandfathered or retroactive or something. I would have to think it would be.
Anyway, I don't know.
Well,
But
we
that's
do-
a risk potentially. That's pretty, long term, and I don't know if they'd ever cut people off entirely, but Bonta Vista has. Or future. That's a fair point. It is for, I think it was in like 2021 was their resolution, so anything beyond that.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be grandfathered if you already have it.
That's fair. That's probably a
There's
fair
no way you
point.
can go take it back, I don't think.
Yeah, that's a
You
fair
do
point.
that.
That's a fair point. They wouldn't be able to prohibit people who are currently doing it like.
No, but they could stop it. in the
Just a
future.
thought, so.
Yeah, I'm open to, I mean, I know we're not making decisions on adopting an ordinance, but if it's directionally, I'm open to the language
there's
speaking
commercial
directionally around
application
allowing
that makes
culinary.
a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably some standards with commercial and residential, since we've never really had commercial, I feel like there needs to maybe be some
Yes,
different.
it doesn't need to be something.
Or even like with the zero-scaping, there's a house in the subdivision behind ours, the second house in, and their whole front is zero-scaped, but I know they turned in the developer half a share of water, and I don't.
Well, and I think you're gonna find a lot of people who can maybe zero scape front yard and put a little bit of grass in the back.
Yeah,
Still might be a lot more economical for them because, the value of a water share now is $30,000, basically. That's a lot of money you'd be converting to water a, 400 square foot piece of grass or something like that.
Darren, additionally, I think we should clarify, if you hadn't already taken the note of this, but we should clarify the exemption process if there is one at all to
Yeah.
be had. It should
Well,
be
yeah, we-
specified and understood who has the authority and what that looks like.
Which I think is what you're insinuating,
Yeah.
you would want them to have the option to choose between the two.
Yeah, I'd want them to have the option to choose, but is there ever a scenario where there is a completely exempt build-out that says you're not watering anything?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so what should that exemption be?
well, and like it said too, from a well, our ones are exceptions already. Some people do have wells, or they do irrigate, from the.
Well, I have a well I can water my lawn off of, but I use culinary for it because I don't have a lot of grass. And it's cheaper for me to use culinary to water the lawn than it is to pump the well. And well, it's less, not necessarily cheaper, but it's more dependable. I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about running a pump all the time to pump the wells.
Well, and I just think we need to clear up some of these things that we don't do anyway. If we're not requiring them to install a dry system, then we shouldn't have that in our ordinance that we are. Or if we're saying that they has to be part of their development agreement, but they don't have a development agreement, then how do we, and both of those are in the 652, but anyway.
Okay.
Well, I feel like it's always better to be on top of things and get things going
Let's be
before all of a sudden.
proactive instead
Yeah.
of reactive, okay?
Yeah, that's what I think too.
I don't want to fix things before they end up being a pain in the butt.
Okay, any other suggestions for Darren or comments on this before?
You can reach out to me after too.
Just escrow, I think they ought to be able to put it somewhere, but we need to realize as a city, if we can escrow those, we probably ought to be paying them some interest, and it's not much. But I'm pretty sure if you check around, you will find out if a city escrows money, that they are paying some interest to have somebody's money in the bank.
Well, and if we do an escrow, we probably need to look at some time restraints, not just, how long do they put the escrow
Yeah,
money
well, like
in?
10
Is
years
it
or
5
something like
years,
that,
10 years indefinitely?
No,
Because
we
we have
shouldn't
some
put it in
places that
indefinitely.
probably will never have secondary, and
Well, that kinda goes back to curb gutter sidewalk again, same
Yeah,
deal there. If it's
yeah,
not gonna
it'll be
happen down
another-
the road, it's not gonna happen down the road.
Larry, you look like you have a thought.
Well, I just, you know, these escrows, you know, we've had issues out here with them, and, not me personally. I'm just thinking in my mind, can we sign a contract and put something in the contract that if they decide they're not gonna honor it or that, then, a lien gets put on their house, that they can never sell their house until that's taken care of, and I know you have to renew those, I think, every so often, but would that be easier than taking escrow and having to deal with interest and, who put money in, who didn't? I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good
Well,
for
if this
our
gets
attorney.
moved over to the land use where it should be, then that could probably have something to do with the escrows, which needs to be revised anyway. You know, I
Okay.
think this should be something that planning commission should be reviewing as well,
Okay.
so.
I think we have a
Okay.
capable attorney of putting something like that together and bringing it back and saying, do you like this?
Okay.
Got
Okay.
it.
Well, if we're good with that, then we're going to move on. We have Cody Dieter here with us today, who is going to do a CRA presentation. And so we want to have enough time at our work meeting that you can ask all the questions. Cody, if you want to move up.
Sorry, Cody, we didn't give you a chair.
The other ones before, we already approved the policy, and so, again, trying to always plan ahead. We always feel like it's better to plan and see if this is even something we want to do rather than waiting until it's, but anyway, I'll just turn the time over to you, Cody, and thank you for.
Well, always
being
grateful
here.
to be with
us.
you good folks. So, the creation of a CRA has two major components. The first is you need to create a community reinvestment agency that is a sister entity to the city. So that's the first step, and that's what's on your agenda tonight, is an ordinance by the city to create a separate Hooper Community Reinvestment Agency. And then that agency has certain powers and authorities that it can exercise that are different from the city. And one of those is that you can create a project area, which is a geographic portion of your city where you can designate the sum of that tax, additional tax that's generated in that area can be used for specific purposes. And that's outlined in your economic development policy that was adopted. So the first action tonight is that you would consider that ordinance to create the agency. And then there are certain actions that need to be required to set that up. So you have to file a notice of impending boundary action with the Lieutenant Governor's office. So that's a part of the ordinance that will be approved tonight if that's what you choose to do as a council. That will need to be filed, and then they have 10 days. The Lieutenant Governor's office has 10 days to make sure that that's created correctly.
So, quick question, the CRA would cover the whole city if we create an
Yes.
agency?
That's
And
correct.
then we would specifically, if we decide to do something,
Yep,
put it to that specific place.
that's correct.
And if we create one and we never decide to use it, we don't have to, right?
That's right. Yeah, if you create it tonight and you ultimately say,
Yeah, we don't like it.
then it just sits there,
No big deal, no cost to the city, no,
not really, other than filing.
other than finding, why not? Be much.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if we need it, then we already
You
have
have
it
it.
done.
Then we have it.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
So it's probably
It's
not unrealistic.
fairly
to have.
benign.
Okay.
Because we're probably gonna have some changes out here in the future, regardless of what happens immediately, I'm sure we're gonna have some changes.
That's true, yes. So once that's created, then once you have that certification from the Lieutenant Governor's office that you have a legal entity called the Cooper Community Reinvestment Agency, then you can take action under the powers of that statute. And one of those is that you can create a project area to generate tax increment. So the calendar that you have in front of you suggests that by August 6th, you would have that, at that meeting, the agency would be officially created, you submit it to the Lieutenant Governor's office and receive the certification of creation, and you recorded that with the county recorder. At that meeting, then you could take action, anything you wanted to do that the agency has authority to do. And what we were suggesting at this meeting on August 6th would be adopting what's called a survey resolution.
Does it have to be in that date, or can we do
No.
it the 20th?
You can do it anytime you want. after that.
Yeah, the 6th, that we have our truth and taxation,
And we
and we can't do anything else but it.
Scratch that.
But to make sure I understand, so we'd be creating this agency without the implied intent that we're going to use the agency. It doesn't bind us to using the agency. It doesn't require any builder that comes in and says, I want to use a CRA, that we are, since we have one, are forced to use it.
No.
But obviously not the 6th, but in a date to follow around that time, we're being asked to consider to create a project area, which then would imply that we plan to use a CRA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So let's say that you decide to create it today, ultimately down the road you decide not to create a project area. That's up to you. That's your discretion.
So is this just saying that's the soonest date we could do it?
Yes.
But it's not binding us to this date to say we're going to do it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for information
Okay.
purposes.
I just wanted to understand that.
Clarification, who runs the CRA?
You are the board members of the CR,
So,
of the agency.
City council, mayor, or who?
So you would be the board of directors,
Okay.
and the mayor would be the executive director of the board.
So when we acted on behalf of the CRA, we would literally just be like, here's this hat of
Yes.
CRA, and
Yes.
take off our city. I mean, it could be in the same meeting. We just
Yes.
flip from one meeting to
You'd have
another.
to have a separate agenda, so
Yeah.
you'd have a redevelopment agency agenda that would be separate from yours. You'd say, okay, now we're reconvening the redevelopment agency, or the community reinvestment agency, rather than the city council.
Now, the ordinance talks about the powers that body would have. Those powers are limited and subject to the council's powers, right?
If you want to create a project area, the city council still has to take action.
Yeah.
You have to approve that as a city council as well. So there are certain authorities that the agency has that are simply by the agency, and there are certain things that the agency can't do without the approval of the city.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're outlined in the statute what you can do and what you can't do.
But hypothetically, the mayor, not acting as mayor, but acting as the chair of a CRA, couldn't do something that would supersede her powers over council, not acting as the CRA, right? Like we don't run into a situation where like the mayor could go be like, I'm going to designate this as the chair and do this thing, and the council's like, oh, well, we don't have the power to stop that.
Because you, as the board, would be, you're the
You would all
board.
be making the decision together.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
by vote, same as the
Yeah.
council,
Same.
same
It's
process.
nothing different.
And I probably don't have a vote either then. Do you? I don't know,
Would
because
be.
now I only get a tie vote. Is that similar with the C?
I would have to.
We'd have to look at
research
that one, Darren.
I think it would be,
I don't know
I
the answer.
think we can decide
I
that.
think you can,
Yeah.
in your bylaws.
Yeah, the bylaws.
Go check your favorite cities and see.
I think that would be a choice.
I think you're right. So then the process, assuming you want to create a project area, you would come back as early as the 20th, not the 6th, unless you want to hold a special meeting, which I assume you would not want to do. At that meeting, you create a survey resolution, and this is basically saying, here are the geographic boundaries we're thinking of creating a project area. Again, that action doesn't bind you to do anything. It just says, we are contemplating that this area, this geography here, this boundary, we may do tax increment. So please prepare a project area plan that describes what it is you're going to do in there. And then that will ultimately have to have a public hearing before the board to approve that public hearing, approve that draft project area plan. That's shown on the date of 9/17 on the calendar that you have. Obviously, that have to move since we're kind of pushing everything out a little bit. There's a 30-day notice period before you could hold a public hearing. So before 9/17, you'd have to have a 30-day notice. So that's going to push that obviously into your like an October meeting for that to happen. So the major steps are a survey resolution that says, let's create a project area plan, describe what's going to happen. Then you have a noticing for the public hearing for that plan. And then once you hold that public hearing, you can then take action and adopt that project area plan. And then the city council also has to adopt an ordinance that approves that plan. Then once you have that in place, then you have something to act on. And you can go to the different taxing entities and say, hey, we want to solicit your involvement. We want to solicit that you will provide tax increment to this project, and you have to negotiate individually with each of the taxing entities.
But they don't have to be the same, they can pick their,
They can
Pick
do a
their
different
poison.
percentage and a different length of time. The plan will say, hey, we're contemplating a 20-year project area, so that would kind of set the outer boundary, but they could come back and say, hey, we only want to do 5 years, or we want to do all the way to 20, or whatever that.
and everybody inside of that has to agree to it, right? Basically.
So you'd have individual interlocal agreements with each of those taxing entities. So with the city, you know, the agency to the city, the agency to the school district, to the county, to the mosquito abatement district, to Weaver Fire, Hooper Water.
What's the average cost to a city to just even set this up? Because I mean, that's all a lot of work. Somebody's going to have to draft this.
Yes.
Pay for it,
So
do all that.
I just barely sent the mayor a scope of work, and it's $29,500
Okay.
to do all of that.
That's every local agreement that covers all of it.
Yes.
Anything we would do. So I have another question. The taxpayers pay for us to do what we're doing right now, and they pay per meeting. You know, you're paid if you don't show up for a meeting, you're not paid for that meeting, that type of thing. So are they paying us as board members separately? Are they using city funds that they're paying for city council members to pay board members? Or is it an additional meeting? Like, how does that work?
Right now, you don't have a policy that says anything because you haven't created
Yeah.
the agency.
So that would be up to us, basically.
I'm just curious if the taxpayers are gonna foot a bill for us to do a different action and wear a different hat, in an additional meeting, or any meetings that we're taking for this, if they were in addition to what we do as city council members.
You could choose that, yeah.
So
Well,
it's gonna cost $29,500,
Yes.
and we haven't, we just did our budget. We didn't put anything in there, did we?
That's just what I was going to ask, but we can include this in with the cost for the CRA. As far as I understand, that can be an expense. So if we create this CRA board and the taxing entities say they will, then that can be an expense that is included. So this wouldn't be a budget item per se, it would come out of the CRA.
What if we don't do
But
the
one way you
CRA
have to,
then?
So out of the increment,
yes, out of the increment,
and we pay that back.
yes.
But what if we don't create the CRA? I mean,
Well, if you
you
don't
still
create-
have to do the work.
If you don't create the CRA, then the scope of work stops.
Yeah, we wouldn't charge
Th-
that.
th- Then we pay it, I think it
Oh,
was
so
like
you're
just
only
do it
gonna
by
pursue it if we agree to
175,
create it?
yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we want to make sure.
If you like tonight, let's say you adopt it, we're not gonna charge you $29,500 if you say
I
that's the
appreciate
only
that.
thing we're gonna do. We would just say, hey, it took us a couple hours to.
We have donuts out in the lobby. and a
If
couple
there's
of
chocolate
them.
milk, then probably we'd be all right. If not, then I'm gonna send you a bill. So, no, just kidding.
You know, one thing I was going to mention, I thought of when you were saying that, you know, you talk about the different entities. I know, for example, Weaver Sewer District said they will only approve to partner with the CRA if either the school district buys in or the Weaver County. And so that, and I don't know, you were involved with the fire district when they did some, were they similar to that? They
They're
wanted,
being very, very restrictive on what they're gonna approve in the future.
yeah.
The Far West project is probably the last big one they're gonna approve. So,
How big was that?
it was a 20-year at, 80%, 75%, I wanna say.
It was a large one. I can't remember how many million. I sat at the
And the fire board
sewer.
was split on the vote, it passed with
Barely.
one barely vote.
So I think it would have to be, you know, we decide if we even want to do this or not, and then then we go to those entities, and then it's up to them. And if any of the entities say no, or at least not the school district or the, you know,
Fire.
Weaver County,
Or the
then,
county.
yeah, because
So
those
the
are the
county and
two.
the school district are the two biggies.
Mhm. But I'll give you, like, for example, when they are just doing that big America First project with Riverdale, I can't remember now which one did. They were surprised. They didn't get both of them, but one of them did and one of them did, the other one didn't.
So what they do?
Well, they're still moving forward, but they have a little more sales tax base in Riverdale City than
That's true.
we do here in
You
Hooper.
think?
A little bit.
Yeah, you don't have to have every entity approved. It just
No.
means that if you don't have it, then you're limited on what.
So why do we want? I've heard us have the discussion like when Terra Strata came around, but they had said like they would kind of go do this, and it would be like the project-based type thing. Why do we want to do this ahead of time? I know we've been pretty split as a city on whether or not we even want to use this type of thing, if we want to strap people to this, because it's going to be the future home builders and the people who are going to own this land that kind of foot the bill for this, right?
They'll pay the same property tax they've always paid. It'll divert the tax.
Right.
after the fact.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So it's not like they're,
They're not gonna get any.
They're not getting an increase, but the future tax revenue is going to go to this. It's going to go to this type of development thing.
But it's not even future development, it's the boundary we create in
yes.
that area.
Yeah, all of that, the future earnings of that, yeah.
So if you create the boundary and those people in that boundary start diverting their tax money into this CRA.
Yeah,
So all of them, so whoever buys off on it, whether it's the fire, the school, the county, whoever, all of that property tax revenue gets diverted into this.
But it's
A portion.
But it's above
Above
the
the
percentage.
Increase.
it's the incremental increase, it's the
Yeah.
increase.
So it's not current, like, if there wasn't an increase, then
There wouldn't be any.
There'd be no increment.
there'd be
Yeah.
none.
Right, I guess my question is like, I understood the discussion around tying it to a specific project that we
Yes.
might want.
Yes.
But why just do it to do it if we don't have a project that we want to tie it to?
So this assumes that you are contemplating like a Terra Strata.
Yeah,
If you're as a city, you're saying, look, we're not doing that project, then you can create this, you can create the agency if you'd like, but then it's just gonna sit there.
yeah.
dormant
Until we need it.
Until you need
And I'm not saying we're
Isn't
not
that-
considering the project, I just don't know that we've made a determinative decision that we would entertain that. It's been up for discussion on whether or not we want to send them to find other alternatives, on whether or not we even agree, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just curious I feel like this is kind of cart before the horse, and so I'm curious of like, is there advisement on why a city would do this ahead of time if we're not even sure, we haven't decided as a group that this is something we want to do in the first place?
So I would say the first step of creating the agency is fairly benign, and so I'd recommend that you do that. But in terms of, hey, do we want to move forward with the proposal from Terra Strata? That's what this is. I mean, this isn't a vacuum. That's what
Yeah,
this is for.
yeah, I want to call it what it is.
That's assuming
right.
that's what it's for. Then, you can wait until you say, we are now ready,
Yeah,
and as a city to form that specific project area. And once you do that, the other thing I would suggest, as an aside, is that you say to them, part of your development agreement is going to be that you're going to pay this cost up front to create the agency, and then you'll get reimbursed through tax increment over time. That way it's them putting forward their money to create this, and it gives them an incentive to
right.
help you get it done. They already have an incentive because they want to get that relief.
I just wanted to clarify, I was getting familiar with the code. So this boundary right here, this isn't the project boundary.
No,
I just
That's
wanted,
the city.
when I saw that, I was
The whole city.
curious to see what reason
This goes
you would do that, so.
almost,
There you go. That's the
almost
whole.
halfway
That's the
across the
whole.
lane.
That's supposed to be coterminous with the
Got it.
Upper City.
Got it.
So help me understand the 29.5 again. If we adopt it tonight and approve it, we're not gonna pay that 29.5
No,
right away. We're just paying what?
but we'll just pay hourly, we'll charge you hourly for
Okay.
coming here and.
And then if, I'm just throwing out Terra Strata, then if we do something with them, then that's when we need to worry about paying that 29.5 and then we get them to help pay or whatever.
we can build that into the project.
Okay, all right. That's what
Yes.
I don't see spending 29.5 right now. It's just gonna.
No, I wouldn't
sit,
either. I wouldn't recommend you do
Okay,
that.
all right,
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, and I would very much say to Terra Strata, hey, we're ready to go fight the battle with you. So here's the first thing you do. Cover our costs to create this. You'll get reimbursed if it goes through.
If it doesn't go through, they pay it?
Yeah.
Typical language?
Yes, absolutely. They would still pay it. It's part of their,
So we don't
Their
get
risk.
anything.
yeah. Because it benefits you, but it really benefits them directly, right? It benefits the city because you provide goods and services that the community needs, but
So there's not a
It's
ton of
them.
risk to get that put together to the city, basically.
no, not if you can
Just
just ask them to,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, just a little clarification too, because we've been talking about this, just so everyone understands. People say, oh, this is going to cost so much, but like Darren said, no, it's the increase. So if the property tax on that now, that land that's in Greenbelt, and maybe they pay, just to make even numbers, $2,000, maybe the value of it,
It's not
by the
much for
time,
Greenbelt.
no, but then by the time if you had a development there, could be 200,000.
Or
So they're only taxing on that difference, because if we don't do anything at all, it's why the school board, Weber County, everybody buys into it, because they know ultimately they're going to get a lot more money. Because if it sits like it is, they get hardly any. If it develops into
Right.
this, they end up.
That's their incentive, basically.
That's
But the
their
thing is,
incentive.
The school board, the fire board, all those districts immediately start providing services in that area. And if we divert this money for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, they don't get a dime of that until that contract is over with. So they're already providing services. The school's paying for kids to go to their schools, but they're not getting the money immediately for it until
Well,
20
they
years
still do.
away.
They still
They're
get
not getting
50%. Yeah, most of them won't
They're
do
not
any
getting
more
the
than,
increase or the,
they would be getting,
You're getting the percentage of the
A
split.
small percentage of the split.
well,
Whatever
it's
the
like
split
50.
is.
Most of them now won't do any less than 50%. So they're still getting every bit of tax they had on that 2,000 to begin with. Now all of a sudden they're getting 50% of that 180,000.
But we're providing full services to do it.
So if they're willing to do it, because I don't know a ton about this stuff, to be honest with you, I don't know a ton. But I do believe that if they're willing to do it, their people know that they're gonna get the money, because there is no way they would do it if they weren't gonna get paid back.
Like Terrace
I mean-
Drive,
They don't get paid back. They get a percentage now and then full percentage in 20 or 30 years, whenever the contract
There's no
ends.
rollback.
But they don't get back pay for it.
No, but they're gonna come further ahead.
they have a potential
by doing
increase in the
it.
future.
Yes,
In the future.
if they didn't do it at
But
all.
somebody's still gotta provide for current services. You know, schools cost 100% on day one, they don't cost 50% on day one.
Mm,
So somebody's still gotta make up for that lack of 50%
Yeah.
that they should have gotten without the CRA.
Right, so
where does
that's,
that money come
that's
from?
my thing
See,
that I have a hard time wrapping my head around with these, is just specific, I mean, it feels like a fake thing. It feels like we're making up a way to print money to serve a process. And so this is where I have the hard time. It's like paying a girl to go on a date with you. It's like begging her, right? Like we're like, why am I begging Smiths to come out here and let us spend our money with them? Why am I begging a developer to come build houses out here? Like, do they not want to? You know what I mean? So why are we giving them half of our future earnings to be able to make financing easier for them to come out here? And so that's kind of my question on this whole
Because
thing.
they created the rule to do so because they know. the
Yeah,
contract
I know they
doesn't
can do it, but my question is like, is you know, am I that ugly? You don't want to come out here? You know what I'm saying? Like, why you don't want to come do business with us on your own dime?
Well, I think that if you look at the policy that you guys, that we created with you, we're very specific that you need to have a but-for argument.
Right.
Which is, but for us providing this increment, you won't come.
Yeah.
And in this case, what is that but-for argument? I think it is it's the sewer lift station.
That's what I'm wondering. Have they satisfied an answer to that?
That's what we've heard so far. I mean, we clearly know that that is needed in order for a development like that to happen. Whether it's them or it's somebody else, someone's going to have to provide that sewer lift station. Is it the city? Is it going to be on the back of the developer? Who's it going to be? And so when you ask that question, it's a very valid question. But for that sewer lift station going in, probably not going to get a
Yeah.
Smiths or anything like it until that problem is solved. So this is a way for you as a city to say, hey, we'd love to see that development. We'd love for that girl to ask you out instead of you asking her, right?
Right.
But until that happens, we're probably not going to see anything like that. And you know, it's a meaningful sales tax generator, which is very beneficial
Sure.
to you.
Yeah.
But that's probably how I would answer that.
And we
question.
can use anything that comes from the CRA to anything that benefits, like we've got a force main we've got to put in that's $1 million. And we could divert some of that CRA money to
Yes.
pay for that.
If it benefits,
It benefits the
then
project,
yes,
it's
you
gotta
can.
go if we're gonna
Yeah.
do the project.
Yeah.
So even little businesses over there, you know, right now, we don't have a way to even accommodate them. There's no way we're gonna get any commercial in that here unless we do something, right?
That's correct.
But have we heard definitively that Terra Strata will not come if we don't put in a fix the the sewer lift station conversation? Because that's the other thing. I remember when they were not here long ago, and they actually were leaning a little more towards kicking in on that sewer lift station. And so it's like, are we at the point where we've negotiated enough that we understand that they are saying, we will not entertain this if you don't do that? That's my question too. Like, I don't want to just be so thirsty and assumptive that I need them so bad that I'm willing to do this.
It's in the developers agreement from the planning commission meeting. They basically said Hooper City will provide the infrastructure
Yeah.
to do the development. They're not buying in anymore.
That's what
Well,
they're
And it's a lot more than just a lift station.
And it's a
It's a lot more than just a lift
They
station.
want infrastructure provided by the city or they're not gonna play.
I mean, we can't afford to put an air conditioner in.
That was in the initial DA. Was there any clarity on that?
They
did
felt
say
like
that.
they wanted to leave it broad so that you could have discussion about what you would or wouldn't include.
Okay.
They didn't want to.
Well, yes,
They didn't know.
we gotta get some contributions here.
But
Yeah.
that is what they have said though for a while, for at least the last little while that they're.
Because they want us to provide the infrastructure.
So a little bit with, and you're probably all aware of this, when developments do come to cities, one thing is CRA can only pay for commercial. So we are having, if we do this, we are having other taxing entities, when Weber County helping pay for infrastructure for something for Hooper that we aren't putting on the backs of our residents. If not, if this was all completely houses, the developer, and when we say a developer pays, that's just coming out of one side of the mouth because the money's coming out of the residents.
The residents'
They're the
pockets.
ones that are paying. No one is paying, it's going to be the residents. A lot of times when they go to cities too, is cities give up a lot. They give up a lot of sales tax base. They have a lot of incentives for businesses to come. Hooper, we don't have anything to give.
No,
We don't have money we can give. I don't feel like we should be giving up sales tax because I feel like we need every bit of sales tax that we are going to get. So my thinking with this is, why don't we try?
Yes.
We don't know if the school district is going to buy in. We don't know if Weber County is going to. But if we just sit back and do nothing, we will never ever know.
That's true.
If you don't ever call that girl, you'll never know if she thinks you're the cutest guy or she doesn't want to go out with you.
That's fair.
So my thinking was,
My analogy.
if the first step is we just decide, okay, let's create this district.
Let's go explore it. see
And my thinking with this is, and without knowing exactly what the Terra Strata group is thinking, I think that for sure the lift station should be in the CRA and the Force Main because those are $3 million plus of expenses that Hooper City has. And all along we've said, well, it's okay, someone else come and pay for this lift station. But we've had residents along 4700 that have been paying for a sewer now for a couple of decades and it has never ever
Can't use
came.
it.
So when is it finally the
For
city's
20 years?
responsibility?
Couple decades?
20 years. The sewer's been here 20 years in Hooper now. And they've been paying that because they hooked up to the fee when they did because they said if you hook up now it's going to be less expensive. And it is. But they've still been paying for 20 years. So when as a city do we finally say, okay, wait a minute, we are a city. I mean, we have a couple of things we're going to talk about tonight that we need money for that we don't have. So when are we going to finally look at the overall picture and say, we have got to start having some commercial businesses here in Hooper, or we are not going to stay solvent as a city. And if we could try this, I don't know if we will or not. I've sat in those sewer district meetings. I've now sat in the fire district meetings. I've listened to them. I don't know if they will or not. But I can absolutely tell you they won't do it if we don't even go to them and
That's
ask.
true.
We won't even know.
So we don't have anything to lose till we go.
That's what I think. We don't have anything to lose, especially if we
If
put
they say
in.
no, then.
If they say no, then we go back to the developer and say, look, we've tried. I have never been, and these could be fine, I get a little bit anxious when we do additional tax just onto the homes that are being built in there. I feel more uncomfortable with that than I do with CRA, when we can get some of these other taxing entities that will help.
So, I mean, there's other developers that are gonna benefit from this lift station on 4700 West. Doug Hamlin is sitting there chomping at the bit, waiting for us to pay for a lift station so he can take advantage of it. It's like, why don't we go to these developers and say, you know what, you need to buy in, you need to buy in, and you need to buy in so we can build this and then you'll benefit from it. Rather than us paying for it and then they get the benefits.
But we wouldn't be paying for it with the CRA other than our 50% increment, and I think that's in our policy, what we said. But if Doug Hamlin builds those houses, who pays? So if his lot now, instead of $350,000 for the lot, is $390,000 to pay for that lift station, who pays? Our residents. And we are here saying we want you to come because we need some young families, or we're trying to do moderate income housing, but you also have to pay this $3 million right off the top before you ever do other, and there's lots of other infrastructure too, but I don't know that I would be agreeable to
So
that.
who's paid for all of this in the past? I mean, if you think of all the developers
Yep.
that's come in, who has paid?
All our residents.
Yeah.
All our
But
residents.
what the developer did is he sold an improved lot, right? And if you could afford the improved lot, the
You bought
improved
it.
sewer, then you bought
Yeah.
it.
So,
Yeah.
so to that point, that's my question. Like, Terra Strata project isn't just commercial; it's commercial with a bunch of houses.
Yeah, because it has to.
Yeah, and those.
CRA, it's a requirement to have a certain amount of housing.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying like, the company is going to benefit
Yes.
from selling all those houses. They're going to make money on that, right?
Yes.
And so this sewer lift station, like, we can't do a CRA unless there's a commercial benefit. But it's kind of disingenuous because the commercial isn't the only one using the sewer lift station. All those new houses are going to use the sewer lift station, and all those new houses are going to be improved lots,
They're gonna be
and all
improved
those new houses are going to offset. So it's like, we'll pay for, the residents will pay for the sewer lift station that will allow you to build a bunch of houses you're going to sell and make millions of dollars on. And yes, there's a grocery store connected to it. We're using that as the avenue to divert this future thing, right? So I understand the whole, like, we need commercial growth, but it's like, let's take out of this guy's pocket to line it over to this guy's pocket. And that's what I don't understand, like, why that's the answer. If it was just a grocery store, if we were going, hey, we want a grocery store here, and we have to do this, and the grocery store's future earnings are going to help offset the cost of this, and it's going to pay for it. But we're also selling hundreds of houses behind that are going to use that sewer lift station, that are going to put the burden on the system in the first place that need it. So I don't understand why. Do we have the ability to say, well, yeah, we have to have a commercial entity to do a CRA, so therefore the commercial entity is the only one that can benefit from the sewer impact, and you need to carry your portion on the houses.
The houses have an impact fee, is that what you're saying, kind of?
Something, I mean, some
Yeah, they do.
offset, some
They
contribution.
have an
They will,
impact.
Yeah. It's just, to me, it seems like it's like, we're saying one thing, and maybe it's my lack of understanding on the process, but it seems like we're saying one thing, but we're also finding a way to divert future earnings that would belong to the city to pay for a sewer system that's supposedly to get a grocery store, but it also gets somebody to be able to build hundreds of houses. Like, there's inadvertently a benefit to the houses.
Ultimately, you're diverting public money to pay for private development.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah, and that, I have a categorical problem with that.
But again, it's Weber County, it's Weber County resident, I mean, it's not just Hooper.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it will be additional, because how many of you work at, and will work at the America First that's being built on Riverdale Road?
Yeah.
Maybe none of you.
Well,
But
it's
it
almost
still is.
similar to fire stations. We're getting a fire station built in Hooper, but the whole county's paying for the fire station, not just Hooper residents.
Yes.
Yeah, but to that argument, I mean, the government does tons of things that I disagree with. It doesn't mean therefore I should also agree to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, the other thing we proposed originally to Terra Strata was that they form a PID and put it on their own backs, which is have an assessment bond or an additional tax that is only on their property. And, Stuart was kind of like, no, we're not doing that.
Sure.
Which is fine, but
He
it's like,
wouldn't want to do that.
Of course you do.
Well, but
yeah,
then
but it's
it-
almost like what I would rather have is for all the citizens of the county and the school district and the city to give us their tax money rather than us putting it on our backs. And I don't appreciate that comment because I think it's a little bit disingenuous because, like if you really want to come here, then you should be willing to pay.
That's what I think.
but it
pay
would
your
also
fair share.
be all those residents too, though, all those houses with the pits.
Yes.
Each one of them end up getting that added onto them.
Yeah.
And I don't feel good about adding that
Yeah.
additional onto all of those residents
The
either.
other comment I would make there is that housing is market driven. So, if I live outside of the PID and my neighbor lives inside of it, you can't sell those lots for different amounts. Like you could try.
Yeah.
But like,
The comparative
but
analysis.
they're going to
Yeah.
be like, that one's worth 30,000 more than this one across the street. I think I'll buy this one across the street, right? Like, there's no difference. The same lot size, the same amenities.
Right.
So what that means is that the developer has to reduce his profit margin, and he's unwilling to do that.
How many residents do we have right now that are tied into West Haven's line that West Haven wants us off of?
Oh, you know what, I actually brought all that information, because I was gonna talk about it when we get to that on the agenda tonight.
Oh, okay, well, we can do it later.
So, but we can talk about it now. I'm happy to give you all that information, because I actually brought it, because I thought that's something that we would need to know. So, they're currently, well, this is the last time we counted, so there could have been some more houses that have gone on since then. But it was originally signed in '02, and we were allotted to have 300 homes that connected to it. Then in 2004, they let us, and we had a 600 home cap. Well, the last billing that they had actually done an exact accounting that we did, we gave to them, it said we had 975 homes. And that was in 2023. So there could possibly be, but I can only think a handful
Not
that
very
have been
many.
built.
There hasn't been a lot of building.
No. So that went from a cap of 600 in 2004, and along with that, we were supposed to have been paying a hookup fee every single time. And right on this schedule that was made with our previous financial person, they had 0 homes was paying that connection fee. And we were supposed to have been paying maintenance, and we have paid 0 maintenance.
Yeah, any idea how much that connection fee would have
Didn't
been?
we pay, I thought we
250.
were paying,
A wheeling
Which-
fee. We have been paying a wheeling fee,
Which is?
$3 a house. So every quarter, well, anyway,
what was
by
it
the time.
engineered for? See, initially, we were told it was actually engineered to take care of that many homes. So-
Well, no, not with West Havens. We're talking about just that force main is all
Right,
that.
on 5100.
On 5100, and it was just a matter of West Haven allowing us to hook into that.
Temporarily.
Well, yeah, they thought, they never ever agreed to let us have 975 homes. But we need to get, and that's on the agenda tonight because we need to talk about that. So, anyway, that's something we need to get done.
Does it follow a similar process? Did this same agency
Yeah.
issue a PID?
So a PID is created by the city, so you'd have, it'd be this similar process where the city council says, hey, we want to create a public infrastructure district that would have a separate board, but that board doesn't have to be this group. Usually it's the developer. And
Yeah.
they are a separate board. Once you create it, that's the end of it.
Now, is it a true, and maybe if anybody can speak to this, didn't legislature just pass some things around grants that said that cities who, if not for fixing this infrastructure issue, would impede their ability to have whatever growth or whatever, development they need? And so there's grant money that was attached to the last legislature session, offered something. I attended the WACOG. Yeah. I attended the WACOG meeting. They were talking about that.
It's called the SHIP.
Yeah.
And it is for infrastructure, and it's a low-interest loan, and it's $100 million that cities can apply for. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, essentially there was funding that was supposed to be directed to allow cities to develop what they need to develop
With
and
infrastructure.
with infrastructure. And if there was something on infrastructure that was impeding that ability, then they could say.
Have we looked into that?
So, but that's what I'm curious. So in my mind,
It hasn't came out
and the
yet.
reason why I'm
So
thinking of
could
this is I'm just.
Terrestrata do that then? I mean,
I don't know if they could. I think cities have to apply for it. But
Yeah,
my bigger
cities.
question is, if I fix the car or the tire on my car, maybe the girl goes on a date with me, right? Like if I can get the sewage thing fixed myself, if we can get state funding or grants or things that fix it ourselves, is Stewart still willing to come have the conversation about Terrestrata? Because that's what I'm curious of. Like, is it only contingent upon us finding a way to strap other people with this? Because if we can fix that sewer ourselves, or, hey, we've been talking about it. Are we going to always use this sewer system? Maybe we got to consider getting out of this anyway, because we're going to end up spending $10 million over the next couple of years to keep this thing up and running and to continue to head this direction.
Well, David, to me, that's a perfect catalyst to apply for this money in the first place. Because we have a sewer system, this vacuum system
Yeah.
that's so wonderful, it's literally falling apart.
Yeah,
This is wearing out.
Can you say that in good context?
Absolutely.
yeah,
But it's creating a health hazard,
Right.
right?
Oh,
At
yeah.
some future point, it falls apart, It'll be a health hazard beyond imagination.
I've got Silver
So
Saddle
how-
residents telling me that it's backing up in their basement.
So we should be on the
Morning
priority
Meadows.
list
So-
right here.
Morning Meadows.
Yeah.
So one thing that you need to know though about this regional lift station and that force main, they don't go through the vacuum system. So they are a
Right.
gravity fed with a lift station. They go down the force main that connects right into, they call it the hooper.
It's two
But
different things.
it's two
Okay.
different things. So that money,
you're
but
making
it's
a good
not
point.
free money, it's low interest loans.
Okay.
Which, yes, when the time comes, we will apply and see if we can get some money with that. And one thing along these lines too is we haven't received it yet. We've received notification on that grant money from Blake Moore that is 1.5 million, which certainly could be our contribution, I feel like, to add to this. So one thing, and again, I'm thinking if we could get, but I like to get money, that's why will write grants. But I'm thinking maybe that could be our contribution rather than us giving up our 50% for 20 years. As we say, okay, let's apply
That would
for
be
the
more interesting.
CRA,
Well,
and then let, these other entities, and then we'll give our portion of that money from, and it is free money. I mean,
That
it's a
would be more
grant.
interesting though. Yeah,
Yeah.
if we had the
Yeah.
ability to use grant
Apply
money.
to the 5100 West force main, and if it's for sewer, why not apply it to that?
It would be, the whole thing. So if we know we have $3.2 million worth of expenses right now with the regional lift station and the force main. So if we said, okay, let us apply for this CRA, we'll give the 1.5, which would end up being our portion, then Hooper never gives up any of their property tax.
So can we build legally, can we do that contingent? Like, can we say, okay, we'll create a CRA agency, and if we were to ever to enter it into a CRA, it would have to be contingent upon us using the grant funds that would not allow us to have to lose the future earnings.
For our 50%, I'd have to consult.
You could certainly do that. It would just be a matter of like, so, let's say the school district says, yeah, as long as you get that money, then we're in.
Yeah.
They may say that, but then you just have to wait and see.
Who's 50% are you talking about? Ourselves?
No, ours, just Hooper cities.
Cities.
Just ours.
And that's what I'm saying.
Property
One of the
tax.
biggest objections that I hear, at least from the residents who talk to me about this, is they don't want us giving our future earnings away. And so if we had an ability to use grant money to offset that, then that argument's kind of moot and it's not a big issue because now we're not taking from our future earnings. We're saying we got a grant money that we wouldn't have had and it allowed us to enter into this. It still gets us the commercial attraction. It still gets us the process for that. But then our residents aren't strapped with. And I understand it's hard to realize its future earnings, but it still is, it's semantical. You know what I mean? Like it's still money that isn't coming to us for a period of time.
And I guess if you think about it this way too, that if you have to do the sewer anyway,
Yeah.
and no one else is going to help you, the only way to do it is either grant money or
Yeah.
you're going to have to raise your sewer rates or your general property tax to pay for it. Like, so the nice thing about a CRA is like, well, at least we're getting money from outside the city to help us.
Fair.
Because
Yeah,
otherwise,
I agree with that.
like,
We're getting other people around the county to help us pay our
yeah,
bills.
otherwise it's all you.
Well,
Yeah.
in order to use a CRA, you have to have a commercial development.
You don't have to have a commercial development, but that's what we're focusing on here.
Yes.
I mean, that's what our policy is
Yeah.
shaped around. And, you can't create a CRA just for retail. That's why you have to have a certain amount of
Homes.
households in there as well. It's like a certain amount per 1,000 square feet of commercial is a certain amount of homes. So you have to have both.
Like you can't create a CRA just to fix our sewer system. You gotta have development.
You could do that, but no one would approve. No, you'd
Nobody
be
would
the only
approve.
one.
You gotta
Yeah.
have development to go with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
you would have to do that. Yeah, exactly right.
And there are, my understanding, we have multiple developers waiting to potentially start something up in that area, Malcolm, if we get to where we can handle additional sewer? Like several?
3.
3? Okay.
And even commercial across the street on 55, if
Oh,
we
there-
decided to
there's
incorporate
tons
this
of-
in.
If we get a place for commercial to come, they're going to come. We just don't have anywhere.
But to
they're
Ryan's
at.
point, then why aren't they also offering to help us?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that, I agree. It's like you fix it first and we'll come. But the process is also like, well, do you want to invest in the community, the people? I mean, these are working people's tax dollars. The money's come. Where's the money come from? It's coming from people. It's coming from our residents. And so at the end of the day, we're like, I mean, I would love for people to invest in my personal private business, but I can do a CRA to get everybody in the community to pay for my, business. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I'm all for the benefit of the city, the commercial growth, not ending up insolvent. but I want to be honest about what we're asking from people, and I want to be honest about what it is. So if there's ways to offset it, I just have a hard time, even on principle, people saying, hey, I'll come do business with you once you polish it up and make it all look nice, but we're not investing anything in it.
Well, there's still a lot of investment though, because, I don't dare state a number because I don't remember, but the Target, it was a lot of money. The sewer's one piece of the infrastructure. So it's not that they're not paying for a lot of infrastructure. You still have all the water, the roads, everything else. So if we just say we would do the CRA for sewer, that's a small part of what, so to have them say they're not paying it, they're still paying a lot to do it.
I thought you were saying that the development agreement was broader than just the sewer.
That's pretty broad.
It wasn't in the very
It's not
Yeah.
specific.
You haven't approved that. So
We haven't
it,
approved
like,
it.
doesn't mean-
So that's something that would be up for
But
discussion.
you don't win the budge. Here's your development agreement, there's no negotiation.
Well, we don't know.
Well,
that.
no.
That's how it was
We haven't
last-
asked them.
that's how it was
No.
last
I
time.
Well-
suppose they'll budge. But
Yes, and
Very
they,
confident they'll budge too.
and they will sit down and have a workable
but you guys
conversation.
can talk with them and they
I
come
mean,
forward.
Yeah.
you have another option, which is if you really want to fix the sewer, you can issue a bond and you can raise everyone's sewer rates, including the new development. Now, it's not very, but just know that there are other
Sure.
options, and they will pay. Like they'll have to pay an impact fee that will be higher as a commercial entity, and all the new homes will have to pay it. So it's not as if there's not a way to do it. It's just an uncomfortable way of doing it.
Taylor Stauffer in an email before said that this is the east area lift station and it services 186 acres. So, to give you perspective on
Okay.
this lift station's serviceable area.
So you'd receive impact fees from everyone in that 186 acres over time.
Yeah.
That would pay it back.
Current building code, 186 homes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the code and just kind of verifying, we could, one size does not fit all. CRAs can be,
Yeah.
we paid cash,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the increment actually goes to paying off what we paid. Like there's things that,
Yeah, you can do that.
all sorts of things
Yeah.
that could happen.
It could pay for your debt service on a sewer bond if you wanted to.
Yeah, we want as much stuff paid for outside here as we can get.
Absolutely.
But again, if we never ever
So we
decide
need to look
anything,
into
we really
creating
do.
Yeah, you're right.
To take
Nobody's
a-
gonna come until we at least establish the CRA.
No, and I don't really see the risk. And again, I don't really see the risk with going and asking. And if they say no, then we go back and say, look, we tried to get a CRA. But if we don't ever even try,
No,
we don't know.
I agree, I can't see any risk in.
And I think you put a lot of that, like when I say we're your partner, they should be standing next to us. It should be the mayor and Terra Strata together talking to Weber County. You know, we'll be there to support, but our voice isn't a political voice, but, you know,
Yeah.
Terra
No, that makes
Strata and
total
you
sense.
together, and if they say no, then it's like, hey, you were standing right next to us,
Mhm.
you were trying to push this through, and everyone said no. Now what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
now you're gonna have to do a pit, or you're gonna, like, something's now gonna have to change.
So, Mr. Dieter, what is the risk? Mayor says she doesn't see a risk. A lot of people don't see a risk. What is the risk of a
There
CRA?
are risks.
Yeah, there are. I mean, there have to be, right?
Of a CRA?
Yeah.
There's reputational risk, obviously, of going and asking for money. That's not a very big risk.
Sure.
Because, how many RDAs or CRAs are there in Weber County? A lot.
Every city in Salt Lake, every city in Salt Lake has CRAs.
Yeah, so that's not a very big risk. Is there a risk that they don't develop after you create a CRA? Yeah, but that's a risk that's here now.
But we would know that if we don't get it, blah, blah,
Yes.
blah, yeah.
Yes.
But if they don't develop and we've strapped ourselves to the cost of the sewer,
No.
No.
okay?
You have no obligation to. So that's the key. The key to who's doing the sewer is what's going to happen if you create a CRA or not. Who's going to
Pay for it.
actually going to? Because someone's going to have to pay for it up front.
Right.
Like you're going to have to pay whenever that is. Is it going to be the developer? Right now, the development agreement says no. It's going to be you as a city.
Yeah,
It doesn't say anyone else. It's you as a city.
right.
It's kind of important to kind of put in perspective, because this was a comment. All of the increment is going to go to paying off this infrastructure. I mean, there could possibly be leftover money to be doing it with something else, but
Not likely.
not
Not
likely.
based on the amount of revenue they're generating.
It's going to be all going. There's going to be a bond that probably, Terra Strata will pay up front, and then the increment will go to paying that off. All of the increment would go to that, probably.
So not 50% of it would come,
No, like all of the increment that we
Oh,
pay
okay.
into the CRA would probably go towards paying off
okay, I see.
the bond.
Either a bond that we issue or a bond that Terra Strata issues or,
Yeah.
or a loan that they, however they put their capital stack together. Someone's gonna have to pay for it upfront.
So what's the risk? I still haven't heard.
I mean, how should you structure it? You should put all the risk to Terra Strata or anyone else to pay for that upfront infrastructure.
But legally, I think the risk that you are aware of, you're just not gaining it's just the tax situation, right? Like the fact that you're not gaining all the tax that it's.
Potential.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a big risk.
The increase.
There was it's not the same program, but there was a similar program used in the state of California that they banned because they had borrowed so much of their future earnings that they ended up running into real issues when they needed to call upon those earnings. They couldn't do it. And it was part of the whole bankruptcy thing that California went through. And I know that we have more protections than that in Utah's provisions for CRAs, but I mean, it does walk down a similar road of we're borrowing for the future and we have no idea what's going to come. And so if we need access to those funds, they're tied up for 30 years.
There are cities, I just will say that I'm aware, these are used, this is a valid thing, it
Sure.
works.
Yeah.
So there are other cities, if you want to talk to them. find
Well,
out
I actually
what's
believe
going on.
CRAs were first created in some research I've done back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been around for a long
I
time.
mean, things that you see that are familiar with that have done CRA, the Delta Center, Real Stadium, Shields, Procter & Gamble in Boxelder County. That's just a handful that come to mind. At the Maverick Center, there's
They're a little bigger than us.
shopping centers all across the state. These are
Colville City had one that failed.
That was a golf course. That was,
It was a big housing and golf.
it was a golf course, and
That's
they
a
wanted
pit.
to
That
dress
was
my
a
property.
pit.
That
I'm
was a
very
pit.
aware of that.
Yeah.
And I knew that was gonna fail before it started.
yeah,
so.
that was a
That-
pit.
that
and
was a
it
Went
pit.
through your property, you said?
They wanted to use our property as another entrance to the property, because they didn't have another way out.
But not a CRA.
But the city held them back, right?
No, not right now.
Well, the
The
city.
pit is not, the pit has not actually failed, it's still been paid. It's still current. The developer has gone bankrupt,
Bankrupt.
but
The
it's,
original owners
Pit
went
is not.
bankrupt, it's been bought out by somebody
yeah,
else now.
and it's continuing to function.
Whether it
Probably
will
maybe.
move forward much is.
So has one failed? Do you know of one that has failed?
CRAs can't really fail
Okay.
because, I shouldn't say, it's very challenging for a CRA to fail.
Do you know of any that failed?
No,
Okay.
because a CRA is, like,
I have
if you
heard what
if you build it, then
Property.
revenue comes.
If we
The
built
only way
property.
you could get in trouble is if you were to say you issued a bond against that tax increment and you pledged something else to that bond. You said, look,
Like Larry's house.
like sales tax. You said, we're going to issue a sales tax bond that backstops the increment. Like the security is both increment and sales tax, and then increment doesn't come. Yeah, then you could be in trouble. And
Does that
that has happened.
We don't want to do
I
that.
would never recommend to you to do that. Like, you
So
should
we
issue,
won't.
if you were ever to issue a tax increment bond, you would do it and say, hey, if this money's available, then you can have it, investors, but if it's not,
Bye-bye.
you take the risk. Even better, Terra Strata, you figure out how you're gonna pay for this. We don't even care. Go get a bond, go pull money from gold reserves you have, I don't care where you get it, but if the tax increment doesn't show up, it just doesn't show up, and that's your fault for not going.
To make you more comfortable.
But you're not gonna take a risk if you create a CRA,
What?
like,
We probably need to move on.
Yes, we do. Okay, just something, just real quick. Rich Winnett on our agenda talked about city council reports, and we won't discuss this because it's not specific, but I will be calling you. We know that the ban expired for the fireworks. There will be a new one that we could impose for July 24th. And so I will be calling you to get your opinion on that. Again, it will be, last time the governor did that and said that the mayor and the fire chief could talk about that, and also the stage 2 fire restrictions. So just take some time and look through those stage 2 fire restrictions. You can, again, that's something we just can adopt those.
They're pretty much stable, I'd say.
Yes, but anyway, but I'll be calling
The only thing that's changed in
to ask
Hooper is
about that.
most of it.
It's more dry than it was.
Everything else is dry.
Hey, thank you.
you need me to say anything during the meeting?
Yeah, do you want to? I think
I
that'd be
don't
good.
need to, but
Well, they might have some question, if you're okay to stay.
I'm happy to stay.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
yes,
planning
thank
to
you.
stay.
Yes,
But I don't want to
Yeah, they decided to
Yeah.
answer questions.
yeah, yes, that would be good.
It's September.
Forget it this year. It's been done before.
Somebody did that. Who was it? Oh, really? Just can't-
Well, what are we looking for you today?
Colton, you can't say.
Yeah, or COVID, yeah. Well, we can make up its minds. We can have a rabies infestation or something.
Okay, he changed.
Like when it's not.
What are your offices? We're down, street,
Dreamy donuts? Good.
Morgan, don't start yawning. Or I'll start yawning, that's okay.
Travis called me.
Makes you yawn when you see someone yawning. Yeah, when you see you yawning.
Arm's doing great.
Did it?
Pretty much, man. Yeah, I was throwing hay bales the other day.
Foolish.
Doctor told me I should chill. So, yeah, I was throwing hay bales and the doctor was like, "Try to get back."
I've never heard of
I'm not gonna let my wife do it.
for a speed trap.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, but you don't want your arm to get some permanent damage.
That's true. I also don't want to be permanently weak, you know?
No, I know.
And you're not old enough to have to lose this.
No, I think it's fun. I think the privileges are great. I mean, it's that's a standard for a life session. That's why we're back around and all that. So I support it. I support the rules. If I have to use it, the rules are.
Oh, no, they didn't.
Like, it would have affected me if we did that.
Yeah.
It's possible for me to not.
Yeah, we're stuck there. So I will.
I know you're freezing.
Yeah. Really quick. Yeah, no.
Recording in progress.
We would like to welcome you to the Hooper City Council meeting. Today is July 16th, 2026. I'm Mayor Sherry Bingham and I will be conducting this meeting. We are going to go ahead and have a pledge of allegiance by Councilmember Rappaletto and then a reverence by Councilmember Craig.
Please repeat after me.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to serve the people of this city. We ask, Lord God, that you be with us through our decision making. We pray, Lord God, that you watch over the people of this city, those who serve this city, those who live here, that you continue to shine your blessings upon this community. We ask, Lord God, that you guide the decisions of this meeting, of the individuals up here, that your Holy Spirit give us discernment in the matters that we have to make decisions on. We pray, Lord God, that you comfort the hearts in tough decisions and give us an opportunity to, while making these tough decisions, to use the discernment you've given us and the problem-solving skills that you've given us. We thank you so much for the opportunity to serve, and we know, Lord God, that all authority comes from you, and so we thank you for the ability to operate in that authority. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, thank you both of you. Just some upcoming events. We know it's not right away, that it is coming quickly as our Hooper Tomato Days, so hopefully you'll be checking our website. with all of those events coming up. One of our first things will be our junior queen contest, and then we'll have our rodeo queen contest, and then events. So we'll be having more information with that as far as everything that you need to know. So the first thing on our consent items, before that we have public comments. So if there is anyone that would like to come up and make a public comment, if you will come up to the microphone, state your name, and you have 3 minutes. The council does not dialogue back and forth, giving you decisions on your comments, and if you'll watch Morgan, our city recorder, she will tell you when your 3-minute time is up. Do we have anyone new tonight? Okay, seeing no public comments then, our first consent item is a motion approval of the minutes that are dated June 18th, 2026. Has everyone had a chance to look through those minutes? If you have, is there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, if there's no corrections then, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes dated June 18th, 2026.
Second.
The motion was made by Councilmember Rappaletto. It was seconded by Councilmember Hancock. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So the first thing we have then tonight is a presentation from Nicole Blanche. She is the director at the Western Weaver CTC. And when I'm meeting a little bit ago, we talked about our redesignation, if Hooper wanted to do that as far as our Get Healthy community. And I had some conversation with Nicole because they already have this CTC in place, because when you do this healthy designation, then you're supposed to partner with a coalition. And so she's going to do a little presentation, give it some thought about whether we want to. It's not on our agenda as an agenda item tonight to do this or not, but listen to her comments and then we'll put it on another agenda in the future. We do need to decide if we're going to do that. We want to do that redesignation. So thank you, Nicole. If you want to come up, we'll turn the time to you.
Here?
Yeah.
When I saw it was number 6, I thought, oh, I got time to sit. That was number 6, went really fast. That's the end. I can be done. Oh, okay, I'll start. Okay, so like Sherry introduced, I'm Nicole Blanche. I'm the coordinator for the Western Weaver Communities That Care Coalition. If you want to go to the next, I'll just keep. Do I just tell you?
Yeah, but I give you this.
Okay, that'd be great. So in talking, I've been in this role for a little bit now and gotten to know Sherry, and we've kind of been talking about, supporting, thank you. Okay. How we can support the community better, and this opportunity has kind of presented itself where you guys, for the last 3 years, have had the Healthy Communities designation. And it's up for renewal if you wanted to do that. And so she kind of had brought up how could the coalition maybe help support that, so Sherry's not running it by herself or kind of spearheading that role. And as she mentioned, part of the application process, you need to be associated with a coalition or have one designated within your community. And we do a lot of that work already with healthy communities and prevention, and so it would be a natural fit to be able to just align together with our goals. And so that's kind of what I'm going to talk a little bit about, that you guys have had that, and it's just, there's very few up here in our area that have that, and so I applaud you for doing that for the last couple of years. And so I'm just going to kind of talk about how we can support that and then what that partnership might look like with the coalition. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. Anyway, so the Healthy Community designation, it really does, as you can see like on the diagram, health is at the center of everything that we do, right? If we have a healthy community, then we have, good recreation, we have good schools, family support, public health, all of the things that are listed there go along with having a healthy community. And there are some key impacts that go along with that. And the improving quality of life, that means you've got safe neighborhoods, access to recreation, mental well-being, family connection, people feel like they belong to the community. It can strengthen the long-term community outcomes, physical health, mental health, youth development, attract growth in investment, so where that you this community has grown so much. I met with City Councilman Ropalato earlier today, and I grew up in West Weaver, so not very far from you guys. So I've lived here my whole life, me and my husband, and so just the growth that I've seen since I was just little to even just over the last few years as I've raised my family, this area is attracting more and more people, and we want it to be represented not just in Hooper, but in all the areas on this western end as a good community to grow up in, to raise our families in, good schools, good parks and recreation, and all the public safety that we have, so that it can attract families and businesses and developers. And we want to create a shared responsibility. It's not just Hooper's job to have a healthy community, it's all of our jobs, right? It's my job as a coalition coordinator, it's the schools, it's the businesses that are out here, and so the city leaders, and we want to make sure that we're ensuring that that responsibility falls on all of us and not just one. So with that, so just a little bit about who we are too, in case you're like, what is the coalition? So we are, a long time ago, a few years ago, it was just called Fremont 5, so if any of you remember that, that was when Fremont was the only high school, and then when they built Westfield, we took that in under our coalition as well. So we have 2 high schools that I work with, Westfield and Fremont communities, so our borders for our coalition are bigger than any of the other coalitions that we have with the other high schools. We go right to the end of Far West up there, all the way down to you guys. So I cover quite a few schools and communities, and we focus, prevention is at the heart of everything that we do. Evidence-based research, programming for our families and our students. We want to make sure that we're ensuring that we offer good, healthy alternatives for our kids so that they can be able to grow up with, just all the opportunities that they need to thrive. And a lot of, I think, since I've come into this role, we deal a lot with substance use and trying to, the education around that, alcohol, mental health, and it's interesting to see, and I saw this too just before I even joined any of the health department or this role. I grew up here, so I thought, nothing out here, there's nothing wrong out here. We live in the best place ever, and we still do, but there are those lingering things that are out there that not a lot of people know about that are affecting our kids. And so we want to bring that awareness and that education, and so that's what we do a lot. We work with our schools, we work with the communities to be able to educate them on the issues that are surrounding our kids and the obstacles that they face, because they need that support, they need that family and community connection. And so we try to provide education around that. But a lot of the things that we do overlap with the things that the communities are doing. And so where that overlap happens is when you guys first were designated as a healthy community, the goals that you had looked at meeting were developing athletic infrastructure, healthy eating messaging campaigns, and community events that promote social connection. And all of those things in some ways overlap with the things that we're trying to provide. So a lot of the things that the coalition looks at is risk and protective factors within our community. We get that from a lot of data sources. The SHARP survey is one that we look at a lot that is offered into the schools, so we get direct survey information and data from our students currently. And so when we're looking at those, the goals that we have set for our coalition is to look at risk protectors such as depression and anxiety, alcohol use, substance use, vaping, nicotine, those nicotine pouches that are out there right now. And we want to try to reduce the risk factors, but also increase our protective factors. And that's what every one of your goals that you set on your healthy community designation was, to build those protective factors. So the way that the coalition can come into those things to provide that support is, even though we don't focus on maybe promoting or building like a pickleball court. I mean, my kids would love that if I put that in my backyard. But that kind of thing we can turn that into by participating and promoting the parks and their creation. We're encouraging that pro-social involvement, healthy behaviors, and positive peer relationships. And then same thing with the healthy eating. We don't really focus on nutrition per se as a coalition, but when you put the spin on it as, hey, let's have family dinners. Let's have, and that increases that family bonding. It builds a healthy routine and then those lifelong wellness habits. And same thing with the community connection, the social connection. That's what we want to increase, that attachment to their community, the belonging, and then those opportunities those kids can have to serve in a youth council or a community initiative. So just some things that we can look at that we promote, that you guys also are doing, that we can collaborate on, and looking at your redesignation, if you go forward with that as a healthy community, these are ways that we can support you. We're not asking you to do anything for the coalition other than just letting us help you. How can we support you and enhance your wellness in your community and your community members' participation in these things? So we can partner with healthy community events. We already do that a little bit with you guys in Tomato Days. Our youth, we have a youth council that meets with us regularly. We have quite a few kids we have about 15 to 20 kids that just go to Westville alone that are on our youth council, and they work within that group with their peers. We have quite a few from Fremont that work in that Cone area, but we encourage the kids to lead out on these things, to give them those leadership skills and that opportunity. So when they come and help with Tomato Days and they do the volleyball like they did last year, or they provide the breakfast, or they march in the parades, it's giving them that opportunity to have those pro-social events and relationship with their peers. And at those same events, we can promote education and give them that prevention awareness that they might not have or had gotten previously. We can also send out messaging that talks about why it's important to have family dinners, why it's important to be with your families a couple of nights a week if you can. Kids are pulled in so many different directions. I'm already looking at the schedule from my family when school starts, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll see this one this day, that one this day, and it's hard to make it all work, but if we can cement in the reason why, it does promote those healthy relationships. It does make a huge difference in the families. And again, we have our Youth Leadership Council, but we also get a lot of data, and so do you guys. You have to measure your impact on how the things that you promote in your community are going to impact your community members, and we have to do that as well. Our coalition is funded through grants, and I have to report to all of those funders how we've used that money, and what were our outcomes, what was the data that we received from that, to show that we're making an impact in the communities. And it's not just Hooper, it's West Haven, Far West, Plain City, the unincorporated area where I live in West Weber. So we have to, by sharing that data, it can impact what you guys do if you apply for future funding, and it also impacts what we do as well. And then also leveraging that grant funding and community partnerships or resources. We're able to give suggestions on things that we find, because we are very tuned in with the funding that's offered for prevention in the state. If there's something that aligns with you guys, we can offer that to you, help write the grant, and vice versa. So that would be a way that we could work together to promote that healthy designation within the community and just have a greater impact on everybody as a whole. I don't want to take a ton of time, but you guys, as you think about doing that, I know a concern was brought up that they don't want somebody, just one person alone to run it, and that's where the coalition can come in and help promote that, and also help with the planning, sitting on the committee, taking some of that responsibility off the council members or one individual if that was what was determined. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, this is what the partnership would look like. I thought it was done, but you guys can kind of read through that really fast. We don't ask for anything more than just you guys that let us promote our coalition through the community, collaborate on events, promote our messaging with city communication channels, and then that's what we give back: prevention, education, data, evidence-based programs, support, and then resource coordination. So anyway, now I'm done. But if you guys have any questions, Sherry has my information, so if you ever have any questions or need, I'd love to talk about it. I get a little nervous and it's intimidating up here, but I appreciate your time, and I hope that we can collaborate more in the future. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Nicole?
I have a question. Your last slide there said that one of the things you would need from us is a meeting space. And I know we've had discussion in the past about allowing community-centered events using our meeting space, and I'm just curious what you would need for us for a meeting space if we were to commit to that.
Yeah, so we've already actually collaborated with you guys on that in the past. We've offered some parenting classes, and we did that not this last year, but the spring, I think, of 2025. When I was first hired, we did a 5-week class. It's called Guiding Good Choices, and we invite our parents to come in, and then they are able to get that. And it's all about family bonding, how to talk to your kids about issues that are affecting them in school or in daily life, and how to create those connections. And so really that's what it is. It's, can we hold a class here for your community? Can we maybe hold a meeting here? We've held a few community board meetings and things. So it would be nothing more than just that kind of thing. Then we would, if we come and do a booth at one of your events, that type of stuff, it would be the meeting space.
That leads me to one more question, because I didn't know the answer was going to say that. I guess it's more of a question for you, Darren. Do we run any risk partnering with an organization like this, knowing that they would be teaching something to our citizens? Do we have any liability of what they teach, what that curriculum looks like? Are we outwardly saying as a city that we support the message that's given, things like that?
If we partner with them, yes.
So currently, we already are. Hooper City is one of the communities, and within our budget every year, we actually do give money to the coalition, and then the coalition in return ends up supporting our events. So we have actually partnered with the coalition back when it was Fremont 5, when it was first being originated. And if I had to guess how many years ago, I would say probably 10. How many years have we had the
At least
coalition?
2018. Yeah. So, and
Yeah, I'm not implying I disagree. I don't even know the curriculum.
Oh,
I'm
no.
just curious. Anytime I hear, I have an educational background, anytime I hear that we're going to educate people on things, then we have to be making statements and taking stances on things. And so as a political entity and as a city governmental entity, are we saying we also agree with those things?
yes, and I should have pointed out too, just along with that, we are, our fiscal agent is through Weber Human Services, so any of the curriculum that we teach has been vetted through them and the state. So, but we're happy to provide anything ahead of time that you can review if that's something that you would like to do. Again, we've taught those classes before, not saying that that, is not something going forward, but we'd be happy to provide curriculum, answer any questions, or refer you to the coordinator for that we have at Weber Human Services, and they would be able to answer any of those questions for sure.
That's really insightful thinking.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you have a partnership agreement that would be sent out and signed by the city?
We would definitely, we're actually drafting like an MOU type thing. I'm just waiting for the directors at Weber Human Services and their attorneys and stuff to finalize that, so that the coalitions, because there's a Bonneville, a Roy, a Weber, and us, and Ogden City coalitions, and they all want to try to do that same kind of partnership with their cities that they represent and work with. So that's something that we're definitely working on.
So it would be low liability. I deal with this all the time in my job, so the liability would be handled in that partnership agreement. So I just want to see that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that draft is being sent through our directors there at Weber Human Services. Once we have that, I'm happy to share that with you guys. You can review it and see what you think, and then if there's any changes to that agreement, we'd be happy to review that as well.
Maybe the mayor knows if we have one of those in the future, or in the past, signed up.
I don't think we've ever had any kind of a signed MOU.
I don't think, as I checked with past coordinators, that's something that I don't know that any of the other coalitions have had with the city. We have one with the school district, so that we can go into the schools, teach those same classes. So we have, like last year we partnered with Mountain View Junior High and did a Strengthening Families class, and so we have the same type of MOU in place for them, but offering it with the cities, that's something new that we're all exploring as coordinators. I think it would be beneficial to both coalition and the cities for all of that, so I'm hoping that that goes through. Yeah.
Well, I might be mentioned before in one of our meetings, but when I went to the Healthy Communities seminar that they had coalition directors there, and that's when I called Nicole and said, why aren't we partnering? Why are we both doing this exact same thing? Why do we have a coalition in the city? We already have the one with Western Weber, so that's why we thought this would be a really good partnership. And Nicole also mentioned on one of her slides about helping us with grants and applying, and so she already told me about one possible grant that I have completed, ready to submit if we decide we want to do this, and it is through Weber Human Services, and it's the Department of Health and Human Services with the state. That's a $2,500 grant that again would be helping. I put in here about the possibility of being able then to pay a Weber State University intern, so I had a stipend in there with some program materials, advertising, some participant incentives, some surveys, evaluations. We could do pre and post to see the benefits. And so again, I feel like this is something, we did it before. I don't know that we did it maybe as effectively as we could have in the city, but I would like to see us continue to do this if you're interested in having this designation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
No, I do have to make one comment though. Wow, you are very well prepared to answer every question, and you talk fast.
I do. I'm
Way to
sorry.
go.
When I get nervous, I get a little. That's why when Sherry said talk fast, I was like, done. I got it.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, would you be opposed? Our consult is here. Our code right now for the change requires us to do a vote to change the agenda, would you guys be willing to do the CRA right now and go and handle that issue?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
There would have to be a majority vote of the council to move that in the agenda according to our code. But
What's the reason?
the consults here, it's at the
For
end.
the CRA, we
Lots of
have it a
discussion.
bit,
You don't
yes.
have to, it's just an idea.
If you would want to move that up, change the agenda to move up it is our first, let's see, the possible motion to consider is B under action items. Move that up, talking about the Community Reinvestment Agency while Cody is here, moving that up in the agenda. Is there anybody?
So he could go.
Yes.
Yes.
So if someone would like to make that motion.
Would that supersede the conversation on lease agreement?
That's what I was proposing, but it would be your decision.
I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to the fact are you ready to go home? Are you ready?
Whatever you guys want to do, I'm happy to chill or jump in, either way.
I don't know how much time the lease conversation is going to take.
I don't know, there's a couple of things. Someone would like to make that motion to move that up.
I make a motion to move up the conversation of ordinance number 206-24, creating a CRA, to bump it up in front of approval of ordinance number 22603.
So in front of the trail lease agreements?
Yes.
Having it next?
Yes.
Okay, that motion was made by Councilmember Hancock. Is there a second?
If it helps him out, I'll second it.
Okay, second is made by Councilmember Rapoletto. All in favor?
Do we have discussion?
Is there a discussion on it? Do you want?
I have a question. It's under an action item. We're moving it up under a discussion item.
That's my question also.
We'd be moving the entire action item up.
Okay, so we would go into action, back to discussion, back to action.
Yeah.
I mean, is that allowed?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just asking for
Yes.
Robert's Rule of Order, for us sticking to agendas and all that stuff. That's the only discussion question I have.
Okay, if no other discussion then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Did everyone vote? I didn't hear.
We have to, guys, let's move on.
You have to cast a vote or abstain, right? Does he have to cast?
I can abstain.
Okay.
I'm abstaining.
What about you, Councilmember Powers? I didn't hear you. You said aye. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Nicole, for coming. We appreciate that. Yes, you can go. So thank you. And I didn't put it on the agenda for us to vote tonight. We do need to get our reapplication done, but because if that's not an action item on our agenda, we'll have to do that next time, and I'll be working on that, and then you can be thinking about if you want to do the redesignation. Okay, so then we've moved up a possible motion to consider ordinance number 2026-04, an ordinance creating the Hooper City Community Reinvestment Agency and authority and authorizing the mayor to execute a notice of impending boundary action. So we had a discussion on this for an hour in work meeting. Again, what questions do you have about this? Any questions that Cody can answer for us? And then we can discuss this.
I think you explained it fairly well in the meeting. I don't have any other questions.
So if there's not any questions then, I would entertain a motion then to consider this ordinance and all that it entails. So is there a motion?
I'll entertain a motion to consider the ordinance 2026-04 to create a CRA.
The motion was made by Councilmember Hancock. Is there a second?
And then we're gonna have a discussion after. I'll second the motion.
Second was made by Councilmember Rapoletto. Any discussion on the motion?
So this is the way, in fact, maybe I do have a question. Will you maybe explain to all the residents that we're just adopting this, if I understood it right, we're just adopting this, but we do not have to act on it unless we want to, is that correct? Or could you explain that to our residents?
Yes, I will. The action that you're taking now is to create a separate entity, legal entity called the Community Reinvestment Agency of Hooper City. So you'll have a separate entity that can, in the future, act under the powers of 17C, which allows you to create a project area and other powers that are granted under 17C. Those could be exercised at any time in the future or not exercised, but you can't exercise any of those to, for example, provide a tax increment incentive unless this agency is created. So right now you're just creating that agency so you can have a future action if you choose to do so under that agency's powers.
So I asked this in the work meeting, I want to ask it again. This agency is taking action and operating effectively as a different body, even though it's the same people.
Yes.
And I know it's semantical, but it does have material implication. Are we asking the taxpayers to pay the individuals up here differently or additionally because they are doing different tasks, operating separate meetings even though they're at the same time? Because currently the taxpayers are paying us to do what we do. And so I would want to be clear that if we're creating an agency that we understand how we're paying the people that are part of that. Not saying I need to be paid to do it. I just want to be clear what we're asking the taxpayers to do with that, because we would effectively be saying, you're not operating as a city council member, you're now attending this CRA meeting, and you're acting as a CRA board member. And so, I don't know what other cities do. Are we supposed to just volunteer that time? Is that what we're expecting of individuals? And then additionally, does that put an obligation, I know based on the attendance of meetings, we pay council members if they attend or don't attend, based on that. So if they're now attending an additional meeting, are we giving a task for like our recorder or something to have to go say they were in 2 meetings on the same day? But I just want to be clear on that before we create an agency we're making people pay double dip for or whatever.
Council. He's looking.
I'm looking that up, but I think it's something that we would decide and have to put in our bylaws. So if you're concerned with having some kind of understanding of what you want there, I think that would be your guys' choice.
Can we effectively create an agency that we don't know how we're paying for it? Or will we need to put it in our bylaws before we create this agency?
I'm searching for it right now for that issue of payment.
Did you say, just to clarify, it can be done in the same meeting with the exception of it has to have a separate agenda? So say for instance tonight, if we had already created this board and we get done with this agenda and we're done at 7:50 for example, then we adjourn that meeting and then we say we are adjourned, now we're going to commence our
Yes,
CRA board meeting.
correct.
So it wouldn't necessarily, but I agree, we need to have all that in writing, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be a separate meeting that we're calling for additional staff to come. We could do them, if I understand it, the same meeting.
That's how I've seen it every single time. It's done on the same meeting.
Same night.
Same
But
night.
you was like, say, in your profession, if you're dealing with me as a client, but then you switch hats and start dealing with Larry, you're billing both of us, right? And so, effectively, the way that we're set up to be, compensating our council members, we're effectively doing a different job. And I just want to make sure, if we want to all agree that like we're not going to take payment for our work we do on the CRA, I'm fine, that's a different issue. I just want to make sure before we go creating agencies that we're telling the taxpayers how they're going to pay for that.
And staff.
I'll say from other entities, once the agency is created, you then create bylaws, and that is something that you can describe all that information. You can have a bylaw that says we will not be compensated, or we will be if there's increment available, or you can just describe what it is you want. But right now, just by creating it, there are no bylaws yet, so
Okay.
you can't create them yet
That makes sense.
until the agency's created. You can,
So there wouldn't be a compensation until the agency rules were created.
That makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, so that's fair.
Answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. I just want to be sure. There's clearly a need for us to have a separate legal entity. And so if there's a need for a separate legal entity, it probably has all kinds of governance that we need to be aware of. And I want to make sure that if we're just making something, we're not just making some made up thing. You know what I mean? I want to be clear what we're
Any other discussion, questions? Okay, so we've had a motion made, a second was made. Because this is an ordinance and we need to do a roll call vote. So I will start with Councilmember Hill,
Nay.
Councilmember Rappaletto,
Aye.
Councilmember Hancock,
Aye.
Councilmember Craig,
Aye.
Councilmember Flowers.
Nay.
Okay, that carries. Thank you. Okay, so now we will go back to our previous agenda, which is on trail lease agreements. And this was going to be on a work meeting that we never had time to do. Thank you for coming. And so we thought tonight, so we talked once about doing, going on a little field trip, and then we decided that was a little bit problematic, trying to get carts or something to take them. And so we went along and I just took pictures. And so I started because with this lease agreement, there's some things in it that we talked about that maybe there's some changes we need to make, because it talked about whether there could be animals, not animals, how many feet away it had to be from the slough bank. And so if you go into these pictures, and I started on the very north end of Hooper Landings, and so Malcolm can pull these up, and you'll see that I just went along the Hooper Landing slough, then I went across the street and went over to the slough that is there in Eli's subdivision, I believe, and then went down across 5900, so it connects to the cemetery. And also the last three slides, we have 3 properties that currently people are using our property, but we do not have a lease agreement for, which I'm not saying I'm against them using it, but I feel like we should talk about that and have something in place, because if ever that property was sold, and those will be fairly evident on the pictures when they show. So, okay, Malcolm, are you have those? So like I said, we just went along and started taking pictures. And if you're familiar with the back of Hooper Landings, the city owned quite a large piece. And several years ago, they decided, and this again was probably about 8 or 10 years ago, they would lease these properties so they would take care of it. And so you're going to give it. Thank you. I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly, and I'm assuming I just the down one. Okay. So you can just see as we go. Oops. No. Okay. Okay. But so you can see, and this is just an example of where they've moved their fences back, which we've allowed them, and I feel like they take really good care of these properties. So as you go along, you can see some people that have done it, some people haven't. Anyway, I'll just keep.
So these fences are on Hooper City?
Hooper City property, and according to our lease agreement, we allow them to do that. Noting though that they own the fence, but at any time the city can take back this property, and it's a 50-year lease. We charge them $1 a year to be able to do that, and again, I feel like it's been very advantageous to because you see how nice they look. Where you look on the other side, the right-hand side is where the Hooper City is responsible for mowing, and it just is a lot of time and effort. So again, you can just see as you go along, they're not all even. Some people have leased property, some haven't, and that's that center portion that would be nice sometime for the city to be able to.
In the event that something catastrophic happened and we had to reclaim that property, from what I read into this, we also would take possession of anything that was on that property. Not that I'm ever anticipating doing that, but we wouldn't have to, the fences and stuff that are on there would become ours.
Yes, and
I don't want that,
I think that should probably be something we look at, because I don't know.
I don't want their fence, I'm sorry, I'd rather have them
No, and I
take
think,
it down.
and the residents have paid money for their fences, so I don't know necessarily, but that is something that's in our current lease that we probably should.
I would like to look at that, because if they put it up, but I can't imagine what we'd ever have to take it down for. But if we did, I would rather they had the option to remove it rather than it becoming our property. And that's kind of what I read into this, was that it became ours. I don't want it.
I agree with that. You go along here and there are animals, and one thing in our lease agreement, it says that they can't. And you know, one thing I just wanted to show too, I'll go back one, not all of these agreements are the same, because you see here, they maybe gained a few feet. Then you go further, and I'm headed south on the trail, they gained a large portion of land, enough that they can, and again, and I'm not saying we want to change it, but it's always just been $1 a year, whether they ended up with 10 feet, 5 feet, or an acre.
But it just saves us maintaining that property.
Yes, yes.
And I will tell you one thing that I have observed, and it was just last couple of days, they are not supposed to have a gate on the back of their property wide enough to accommodate driving through, but we have a horse trailer parked on the property that we own, and that's gotta get removed.
Yeah, I saw that too, about the side of the gate. Okay, anyway, there's pigs, cows, horses, chickens, which again, I think we just need to be consistent. If we're going to have that in our lease agreement, then we just need to change that, because again, I don't know why we have things and then we don't. You'll see, this is still going along, and now we're almost at 5,100. And I feel like it helps the city out, because then we're not having to take care of it. Okay, now we've jumped across the street, and this is 5,100 behind where Eli's is, and there's that road that goes through. This is in the back of the Hubbard's property, and they take really nice care of that. And we've had other residents that have asked along here, like here, for example, no one is, but they have asked if they could, the possibility of perhaps having a horse or something along there to help take care of that, and we haven't allowed them to. But again, there's, you know, quite a distance here, and these are all those properties behind that people have asked, and some we've leased it to and some we haven't. Okay, now we're across the bridge. If everyone can follow where we are on that same trail, and then you see this is someone that we gave the lease agreement to, that they've put a fence up next to it and rock, and you know, it's really well maintained, and that's a property that the city isn't having to mow or take care of it, because we don't really have water access there. They have an access because they can take it from their property, run sprinklers. If we're trying to do something, and this is rocks, some of the others are planted grass.
Aren't they too close? There's supposed to be a 3-foot setback before they do anything.
And we're also supposed to be 35 feet from the soil.
Yeah.
So again, all of these are not created equal. That's why I'm saying I felt like we needed to look at this and decide what we want to do. And then this is the cemetery trail, where you start going down, and you can see ones that have maintained it. It looks really nice. They've mowed, they put some trees along there. Again, whether they're 35 feet from the slough edge, probably not. Again, there's fences that, according to our lease agreement, we would now own, which I don't know if that's something we want to. Is everyone familiar? I'm probably just showing you pictures you're already all familiar with. Has everyone walked along these trails? And
Never have.
okay.
I drive along it, on the road, and look in as I go.
You know, and this is on behind the, where it runs into the cemetery too.
That's a mess.
So, yeah.
What is city staff? They're not really excited about trying to maintain this trail, are they?
Well, they're not, and we've been a little bit short-staffed because of some health concerns this summer, and so I can tell you, we take care of what absolutely has to be done, and probably one of the last things on the list would be to mow the trails. If they have to be mowing the parks or making sure that there's the sewers being maintained, this would probably, and the one that usually mows our trails is one that has not been able to do that this summer. So, but again, we need to decide what we want to do, because then when we have to come in and say, well, I want a horse, and we say you can't have a horse, and they say, well, other people have a horse, then I think we need to.
I feel like I have a hard time us saying we need to manage the standards of other people when we can't cut our own grass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We should be managing the standards of the side that we should do. I definitely agree with consistency, but what does enforcement look like on that? Is that a code enforcement thing? Is that something? And then how do we, like you said, do we go back and look at every single lease that we've done? And have we ever talked to any of these people I mean, that rock that's on there with the fence on top of it, if they're in violation, what is our plan? Are we gonna make them move it? I mean, that's a big undertaking, right? And so, I mean, what do we plan to do? What would it cost us to enforce this? You know, are we gonna have to take people to court? I mean, what does that look like? I mean, it's Matthew 7:5, let's get the speck out of our own eye before we, plank out of our own eye before we look at the speck in our neighbors. So I'm just curious if we need to cut our grass first.
And that has been a concern that people have said. I don't think we do any enforcing, as far as I know, along here. It is up to, they come in and sign the lease agreement, and it's like an honor system. Okay, we believe that you're going to take care of it. My thinking is we just need to decide what we want this to be. And any that are already grandfathered in, we have lease agreements, but going forward, are we allowing horses? We're not allowing horses. Do we still want to do the $1 a year? Maybe change some things that we don't own someone's fence? Is it 35 feet?
Darren, I have a question for you. I don't know how this applies in this type of thing, but does past practice supersede code? I mean, if we say we don't allow horses, but we got pigs and horses somewhere.
I see no reason why we couldn't. I mean, these are our leases. This is our property. We can decide if we want to have animals on this piece of property and we don't want them on this piece of property. I mean, that's your decision ultimately. I wanted to talk about enforcement though. If you look at the language of them, the recent ones I've looked at, we can revoke them at any time. So enforcement, we can abate, we can revoke them, we can remove everything off the property. We can tell them to remove it off the property. If they don't, we can. Correct. If they don't remove it. So we can, there's enforcement mechanisms. I think the biggest one is that we can revoke this at any time.
Okay, I'll finish just going down the road. Anyway,
I can
I
ask along those lines, it sounds like they have to have a 1-year notice to leave the council. Is that?
I'll have to look at them because I've seen some that we didn't have a year-long notice. So is that in the majority of them?
It just says the city retains the right at any time with a 1-year notice to the leasee to cancel this lease.
Oh, okay.
So item 2.
That seems a little excessive.
It's in there though. I mean, we couldn't go change retroactively.
No, there were several that I saw
That's true. That's already.
earlier this year when I was looking through them for different purposes that didn't have that. So that's not consistent.
That was pretty lenient, I think.
Okay, well, we'll just keep, okay, so those are those lease agreements. So now we're on to just 3 properties that, again, I'm not saying we should lease them, but we probably need to do something. So if you look at this picture, on the right is the LDS church that's up there by Freedom Elementary. So you see the school, and then you see the house that's to the very far to the left. Well, you see where the different color of the grass is? Currently, the home, so it is the 4696, has their fence line back to where the green grass starts and is using that portion of the city's property. Which I'm not saying, because we own that property. So the LDS Church owns it on the right, the city owns the property on the left. And so our property goes to where that line is. You can see that's even across the back with the other properties. But the property owner has planted trees. They're using the property up to where the green is. So I think somewhere we probably need to establish a lease agreement as well, because if ever they sell their property, the new property owners probably think they own that, but they don't.
How big is that parcel, do you know? I can look it up online.
Well, if you look at, these are half acre, no, these I think are even maybe quarter acre lots.
Yeah, a quarter, 30 acre lots.
So maybe an eighth of an acre? I'm not sure, Ray. I don't have those dimensions.
I'm just guessing, because I've seen that property before. It's probably around a third of an acre that they are using.
Okay, so that is one that I thought it has been brought to our attention that, and I don't know when and why that occurred, but it has. Okay, so now you have the next one. So now we're down by the State Cultural Hall, down across the street from the park. So you see the building where the LDS church is, where the cultural hall is, and you see that little narrow piece that's right to the left-hand side of the cultural hall. That's also owned by the church. Then you see that place that says 6200 West. That is owned by the city. So again, you go to 6184, and you'll see the house of it is using not all, but about 3/4 of our width going through there. And that is like, that's supposed to be a road, and at Hooper Tomato Days, they do allow people to go back and forth. And so again, when I asked, why did we do this? And they said, well, we just did. Well, okay, if we're going to just do something, I feel like we still should have some kind of a lease agreement, because what if they ever move, and you'll see they have corrals, you know, other buildings they've built, and that belongs to the city. So somehow we probably need to get some kind of a lease agreement, which could be different than our trail lease agreements, but something just so they are aware. And I don't know that they are or not.
Is this property, this is separate from the trail lease agreement though, right?
We have no lease agreements for this.
So we just got somebody who just built on our property
Yes.
a long time ago, and it's just been rolling that way.
Do you have any idea whose water is being used to water these properties?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
I thought it was an excellent question.
Okay, and then the third, and these are only 3 that I'm aware of, and we could have lots more than this in Hooper. Did you have a question, Darren, before we go to the next one?
I was just getting familiar and looking at that provision about the 1-year lease. I've given the idea to the council for these types of properties that we can do what's called a license agreement, a separate specific agreement for each of these properties, where we would have the ability to take back our property when we wanted. It would be our decision. It might be a little safer. This 1-year lease language does make me a little nervous. That's all.
Yeah, it's 1 year and it only says that an emergency could supersede it, and then it says if there's a dispute that we have to go to mediation.
Correct, I just saw that. So,
Yeah.
I've hinted that, I've given that an idea, I've used that several times in different cities. It acts as the same way. They can use the property for specific things, we can exclude how it's used, but we have the right to go in and take the property. We can give them more reasonable notice, like 30 days or 60 days, something that would be more reasonable.
But your legal recommendation would be not to proceed with it the way it sits.
The way it sits, no.
Well, and I agree, it's in our court. If we put that up front and say we can take it any time, then they have the decision, well, maybe I don't want to lease this and put all this stuff on there if you can do that. So I think we put it to benefit us.
The whole point when we want them to take care of the property, that it actually gets taken care of. And I think that'll be the whole point of us doing this in the first place. So.
With this one specifically, there was an incident that came out that there was an injured horse because kids were riding motorcycles and scared the horse, and then they came into the city. Well, then come to find out their horse wasn't on their property, it was on city property, because they had their whole corral and everything. So that got me thinking, okay, legally, we probably need to be making sure we are doing something to cover us, because it was and understandably, it's never a good thing when an animal is injured. And so, but again, we don't have anything other than anyway.
So just to be clear, on this particular property, there's no agreement at all. Like they're just using our property and having their horse on, and they built buildings on our property that we haven't authorized. We don't have any lease agreement. Is there any action of enforcement on that at this point?
We can remove it whenever we want. It's our property.
I mean, but at the point we're aware there's an issue with the horse, are we liable? We're liable. It's on our land, and we know it's on our land, and we know that it's a problem.
So I'm not going to discuss that in this. I don't need to. We can discuss that privately for legal advice, but it's our property. We can have them get off. We can give them a notice, and if they don't within a certain amount of time, we can remove it. They're not taking. They don't have a right to the property. There's nothing the sort. A person does not have legal taking for city-owned property. For the liability question, I think we should be concerned about what's happening on our property. That's where we would do an agreement.
I we have a lease, it would relieve us of some of that
We'll
liability.
make sure that we have, you know, some,
If it was stated properly, it would relieve us.
kind of switches that over, correct?
Well, and with Hooper Tomato Days, then there is the ability for trucks and horse traders to be able to pull in from the road on the other side, which would be, I believe it's 5800 south, then go through, but it is a little bit obstructed to get through there. Anyway, we need to do something. I felt, okay, let's go, there's just one more. So this is the property that is on 6300 West, that is right next to the low sewer. It's one of our vacuum stations. So again, if you look to where the property line is, you can see that. Well, Hooper City, when they put up their fence around the sewer, you can see where they put the fence up, but again, we have this person now that is using where the green is, where the tree is, where the brown, the white, that is on Hooper City property, and they came in and wanted to purchase it. And I don't remember if that was this year or last year, and the council said no. But again, we've never signed a license with them or a lease agreement. Again, we just have a large piece, and we really don't want to sell this because if ever we needed to do something with that list or with the vacuum station, we want to maintain that property. Like I said, these are only 3 that I'm aware of that have been brought to my attention, but I think we should have something in place so we can at least have some legality here for our property.
So I would recommend taking the advice of legal counsel to create a license for these properties that Sherry's just talked about, and then have a different agreement with our trails or trail property leases. So I would, I guess, ask legal to create a license agreement and also a trail property lease agreement. 2 different entities, 2 different things.
So is the license specific to these,
To
Last.
properties that are not adjacent to a trail.
not adjacent, so we continue with the lease along the slough or the trail?
I would think so.
Okay.
But a modified version of that lease that would
Yes.
have like the year and all, something that's a little better.
I actually received a list of all the properties that were owned in Hooper City a little while back. I haven't had time to review that real carefully, but we have quite a few. There might be more than we are even dealing with that would come under this, and there's kind of a blanket policy that are not by the trail specifically.
And these are, I'm trying to see the term, wasn't it like 50 years or something?
They're
Well,
50
50
years.
years.
On the trail lease.
On the trail,
The
this
current
was
one that
50
we have
years.
now,
50 years.
so they would come up in that time frame, but,
That's long for these type of leases. I don't think we want a 50-year lease on these.
So how long is a license generally?
the license, we can have it for,
10 years, 5
10
years?
years, 30 years, something like that. We could do, it would just be different for each one.
Would it be based off the owner?
You could,
So say they sell the home, is that license lead?
you could have it be that way, yes.
Seems to me there's a whole different list of rules for a license versus the trail lease.
They're kind of they kind of are, yes, you could do the same thing with them that we're trying to do here. The one thing to point out, according to our code, each of those will have to come before the council and be approved if it is a lease.
Yeah.
So just so everyone's aware, yeah.
Well, if it's a license, it still would have to be,
Not necessarily. Yeah. not
who would
necessarily.
approve that?
That's not in the lease, that's not in the code, so
Should we include that?
we could, if you want that to come before the council, or if you want staff to kind of handle that type of issue, they can.
Well, that was one of my questions in the lease agreement. With the trails is number 10. Lease property should not be for the keeping of animals unless approved by the city in advance. Well, who's the city? Is that staff? Is that the council? Is that the mayor?
I think if we're
Who is
discussing,
the city?
I think if we're discussing leases, and according to our code changes, it would be the council.
So I think we need to be more clear on that as well.
So you, to be clear on that, would you want that to be like staff, or would you want that to be the council?
I think the council.
Okay.
I agree, it just needs to be more clear, and then that could maybe have some language, like you had mentioned, we could determine whether we want animals or not, because right now it just says no animals, 35 feet. Well, we know we're not doing that, or like the fence belongs then to the city. So I think we need to have something language in there more that it can come to, and so someone could come and say, look, I have this extra acre, can I put 2 horses? That would be different
a concern with license versus lease in making sure that they are, because you said you could do a license for each one differently. Can we do a lease for each one differently?
Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't a concern. License to lease based on the ability to make them different.
I'd have to go look at our code language. I know that there was discussion initially for leases that they had to be fair market value or the best interest of the city. So there would have to be a consistency of what these things are charged, I would think. But that would come up, that would be the council's decision according to our code.
But if it was like the standard, like $1 per year, like we've done, but maybe it's not 50 years or whatever that is, then we wouldn't fall into that. I'm just curious if, like, specifically, we know that we've got somebody on a leased property who's got horses or pigs or whatever, and somebody came before the council to request to use animals, and it was approved by the city council, or not approved. Do we have an issue there?
There would be an issue politically, but legally,
Arbitrary and capricious.
legally, there's no issue.
Okay.
I don't think there's an issue.
So with these trail leases, I don't know you guys' opinion, but I'm thinking the ones that their houses don't go to the slough, I don't have a problem with them having horses, pigs, if they take care of them. But the ones that the houses have this go down to the slough, we got to take into consideration probably no animals that's going to start sloughing off into the slough, and then we've got a big problem.
And you have a little issue with the 35-foot from the slough bank. I know we need to keep it away, but that's a long way. It's like over on 5500 down here where that property is. If we take 35 foot from the slough bank, that doesn't leave a whole lot of ground between there. I think that could be moderated a little bit without any danger to the slough bank dropping off there.
Is that our determination, or is that number set by like the Corps of Engineers or something? Like who
No.
decides what the slough
We
is?
did. We decided that there's no.
Was there a reason? Was it just an arbitrary number we picked? Do you know? Or?
I'm sure it is because they have an easement down the slough, but it ain't 35 feet. It's like maybe 10.
Okay.
And I thought that number came from the center of the slough to the 35 feet mark. But this is kind of alluding to the fact it's from the bank to the 35-foot mark. Anyway,
So it was from the center.
That's what I
So
thought.
35 feet's not that bad.
no.
No, from the center it wouldn't be that bad. So maybe I misunderstood.
I mean, I'm just thinking of a football field, the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of.
No, if it's from the center.
But it's on the mountain trail side.
Yeah, but our language doesn't say that, so if we want it to be 35 feet from the center, then we need to say that, because ours says
From the
slough.
non-trail side of the
This is
slough,
from
yeah,
the
so.
slough bank right here.
Yeah, so we need to do that from center if we're gonna do that 35 feet. If not, we need to modify that.
Okay.
This is just a discussion.
This is just a discussion, so
Yeah.
we'll just leave it up to legal counsel to come up with something that we'll come back and talk about this then.
Do you need more direction than that, or are you good? Okay.
I'll reach out.
What would Leighton do?
License. License on all of them.
Okay, if no further discussion on that, then we're going to go in now to action items A, that is the approval of the ordinance 2026-03 that has to do with amending chapter 1, relocating some things with electronic messaging, electronic meetings. We've talked about this in a work meeting prior, and so our legal counsel has worked on this, moved some things around. We had some things already that were in our existing thing as far as this putting newspaper notices out when we're having meetings that don't really even apply anymore. So Darren did a great job, I feel like, consolidating this into the pertinent information that we need. So hopefully all of you have had a chance to read through this, and we can discuss this, or then, if not discussion, we can have a motion to approve this.
So my only discussion would be that I don't know, it seems to me like we ought to have something in there, and I didn't actually read that, to where there was no conversation with outside sources during that meeting. I couldn't specifically find where somebody couldn't be on their cell phone listening to somebody else while they were talking to us. And I guess we have to sort of trust them because they would be able to call us on a Zoom meeting and let let us know what's going on. I just don't know how we would ever regulate somebody, having somebody give them.
So they would, according to how it's written, they can. It would be the mayor's discretion if there's issues. I think it's under that number 6. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've worked on this. I sent this to each of you individually. No, that would be for 6. 6 would be for the closed meeting issues. But the technical disqualifications would be for 4. That would be under 4. And it's determined by the chair that the remote member of the public body cannot be clearly heard, or the remote member cannot clearly hear the meeting proceeding, that the member shall be restricted from further participating or voting in the meeting until the technical issue is resolved. And then as well, mental report.
Just don't say anything in there that stops them from, and it'd be really difficult to tell because they may need to contact us, but I don't want somebody being coached during a meeting if they,
Aren't there already ordinances that cover that? I mean, we're not supposed to be texting people outside of our meeting right now in public.
Correct. There's the issue of the open public meetings. If we're texting other people and there's potential grandma issues, that those would become record or become a city record during a public meeting like that. But I thought I had that. Let me look through it real quickly. Sorry.
One thing here that I felt like we've talked about, which was really good, is it does talk about with the video, that you have to be able to, the members' video feed, and in the past we had meetings where there was no video feed, and so that, still you're right. Councilmember Hancock, we couldn't really see texting, but.
So 3A, the member should be located in a setting free from unauthorized third-party disruptions, background noise, or visual distractions. I think the cell phone issue is something that's existent everywhere on the dais and virtual as well.
So we just have to trust them they're doing it right.
Correct.
Sounds reasonable.
Any other discussion, questions on this ordinance?
I did have one question. 114B, number 1, says regular meetings, the city council shall schedule regular meetings at least once monthly. Was that changed from twice?
That was changed from twice in our code. So state code requires 1. So then it proceeds to say that it should be every first and third Thursday, which would be according to how we adopt when we have meetings at the beginning of the year. But the state code only requires once.
So that's from state code.
Correct.
And ours still says twice, our local code.
Our local code right now says twice.
Thank you.
Yeah, we already talked about that, and I think we were all pretty much in tune with the fact that we should be scheduled twice.
Well, and one thing to have this in our code was even like last time was July 4th, then it ended up being, we worked on that Thursday, there was no city staff here because it was and so then we need to have something in our code that allows us, for example, if it was the same week of Thanksgiving, that we can cancel a meeting, and currently in our code, we really should not be doing that unless if we allow enough notice.
Right.
I think that was a justification for the one.
For the meetings, that's what me and Nick are going to be doing. Is we are looking and we can assign these. Our code really just needs help everywhere. This had so much information that didn't need to be there at all. So this just got taken back down to where it needs to be. The state code really talks about noticing and everything needs to happen there. We're just trying to simplify it for everyone.
Any other questions, discussion on this ordinance?
Just as a matter of conflict, because I'm the only one who's used it at this point, but since all of us, it's susceptible to everyone, is there a conflict here? Do I need to disclose that I, as somebody who's used it regularly, on my vote?
No, this is not a conflict of interest.
All right.
Okay, if there's no other discussion then, would someone like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 202603?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2026-03.
Do you want him to read that entire paragraph?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Hancock. It was seconded by Councilmember Hill. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, because this is an ordinance, we are going to do it by roll call vote. This time we'll start with Councilmember Bowers.
Aye.
Councilmember Craig.
Aye.
Councilmember Hancock.
Aye.
Councilmember Rapoletto?
Aye.
Councilmember Hill?
Aye.
Okay, that ordinance passes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is an action item, and it is C, approval of awarding bid to A&T Sheet Metal for the HVAC upgrades. These are for our sewer vacuum stations at the North, Low, and Town Station. So I don't know if we have a presentation on this prior to just the council having a discussion? No?
I mean, I can talk about it, but in prepared thing.
Okay, well, we'll just go
Good.
ahead.
I have some comments on this, and I apologize, there's an awful lot here. This is the condensed version. This started months ago when we went down and looked at the sewer system and the building, and actually, I'm just going to back up and go through each item. I think it covers everything. Otherwise, I'm going to skip over some of this stuff that's very important, and then I'll conclude at the end. So part of this is, and I guess we ought to start out, the bid for this was $534,000 for this. In our discussion in our budget meeting, we were thinking around $160,000 to $180,000. I can't remember exactly what got budgeted, but since that time, a whole lot more has been added to this bid. That was, and did JUB do it, or I just heard today maybe somebody else actually wrote that up?
It was Heath Engineering.
Do you mind, Taylor, coming up to the microphone? If not, our residents can't hear.
Yeah, we hired as a sub-engineer, sub-consultant, as Heath Engineering to do the HVAC and electrical design.
Well, and if they listen to this, they're going to be offended by what I say, because I don't believe anything that not anything, but let me just give you some real evidence from proof of these air conditioners. And part of all these comments is I'm representing the 9,000 plus residents here, trying to save them $350,000 that I think is in excess of what this bid should have been. And I'm going to go back to a building in Ogden where I worked. We had retail space of about 4,000 square feet, one air conditioned for the office, and a swamp cooler for the retail. We didn't like it. We had an engineer company come in, put all this ducting in, put this AC in. 3 years later, it's still not what we wanted. And so that's when I got introduced to Brooklyn. And he come out and looked at it. He's the one that come out and looked at the one in Hooper that we never did give him the opportunity to bid on. But first thing he come in and said was all that ducting needs to be removed. You're restricting the airflow in this 4,000 square feet. And he says, let's just put a 10-ton air conditioner through the wall that blows in, and there's a vent that sucks it out, and this is covering 4,000 square feet. We can keep that at 70 degrees, 72 degrees without any problem in the very hottest days of the month. And our secretaries that work there, they'll come dressed like Sherry, long sweaters and everything, because it's too cold for them. And these pump houses down here, I walked it off. I don't know the exact square footage, but just walking it off, come up to 2,808 square feet, so a lot smaller. This worked great. So these same units, we have a shop that's 8,000 square feet, 16 foot tall. We've got 6 14 by 20 doors on there that are opening every day, all day. and the asphalt that's outside of there on the hot days, 130 degrees. So there's a lot of hot air coming in. And these two units are installed the same way, no ducting whatsoever. And we set it at 72 or 74 out in the shop. There again, I went in there yesterday. I went to Idaho, stopped in there to drop off a trailer, walked in there. It was 72 degrees. No ducting. Brooklyn has installed these same exact units for Pine View, and they started the dam and they followed the river down at all their different pump houses. Haven't had any problem. No ducting in there. They've got a 5-ton unit in there right now, and we're going to switch it up to 10-ton units. So if one goes out, we've got the other one there, and was okay with that. They was originally going to do a 22-ton. Brooklyn told us we only needed 20, and I see that's what went out on the bid was a 20-ton. The ducting that's in these three buildings, now this is all just odd numbers, but he's calculating if he would have bid that, probably $130,000 to $160,000 in ducting on this. And then it calls for the townhouse station that they've got to remove lights and that to get the ducting in there, and they want to hook it up to is it an ERV circulating system?
I'm not sure if it's that's what it is, but
Yeah, and so they want to hook it up to that, and Brooklyn says that's just, I won't use the words he used, just not good. And he says it's for like a TJ Maxx store, that would be a good idea. For a sewer pump station and that, there's so much air going through there that it's not going to make a difference, and that it's going to suck all that smell and that through the filters and that, and take care of that. This is stuff that's been proven. I mean, we're increasing it 4 times the amount that we have right now, and and then the other thing is they want to change this to a 600 amp service there. Is that correct?
yeah.
That's what he told me. Our shop, we are 13,500 square feet. 3 of these units in there. We have welders, we have brakes, shears, all this equipment that we're using there. And we have a 400 amp service in there. I don't understand why they want a 600 amp service, and maybe you'll be able to explain that when I get done. Why can't they just, I went over today and looked, they take a 60 amp breaker, so 60 amps is what these furnaces, or air conditioners take, and why can't you just come off the main line coming into that building and put a 150 amp service in there, which is going to be a whole lot cheaper than a 400 amp service or a 600 amp service. I mean, once you start going up in amps on these services, they get expensive, and I'm thinking that's why we're up at that $534,000. And the other thing that kind of bothers me is we never even allowed him to. We never even told this guy that spent his own time to come out that he could even bid on it until I found out. I asked Jared one day, I says, hey, when's JUB going to have this ready to send out on bid? And he told me it went out a month before that. And I understood that you guys were going to contact him and send him a bid. And I called him, and Jared said you guys did, but I called Brooklyn yesterday and to verify it, and he says he's never received anything.
some questions I have for you, are the backup generators big enough to handle these new AC units going in there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Let's see, I talked about a couple of those things. Do you know how big the panels are right now that we have in those?
No, I don't.
I thought Jared was going to be here tonight, so I didn't call him today. I assumed he would know. And do they really need to be upgraded? And my thing is, when I used to get these government bids and that, we would go ahead and bid it the way they were sent to us. And, you know, we didn't call them and tell them, hey, this is stupid or that. We just figured, you know, we got to bid it the way it came to us. So I'm not blaming the people that bid it at $534,000 because all that ducting and that 600 amp service. I'm almost done. You know, and we saw before our budget meeting the estimated cost, I think, done by you guys that was in the $500,000-600,000. That was the whole reason I brought Brooklyn out, because I knew what we paid for our two air conditioning units at our shop. This was in 2024. They were about $48,000. We spent another $30,000. I went over and looked today, another $3,800 for the electrician to come hook them up. And so we were basing all this, and we come up, Brooklyn, just a rough figure, $160,000, $180,000 plus a little for electrical. You know, so we budget that. I mean, we just finished that budget, and then this bid comes in at $534,000, and then Jared tells me that they accepted it. And we can't do that to the residents of Hooper. We can't come up with $350,000 more. You know, these pump houses aren't that big, and that. So I've been talking to Brooklyn on the phone. He's in Alaska doing a job up there, and so we forwarded the bid that I got that you sent to Morgan yesterday, and he rough looked at it. 288 pages, but it just kind of blew me away when I started looking at it. But he told me, he says, no, this is common for cities to send this out. I know right where to look. And his initial thing was, you don't need the ducting. That's a waste of money, and that it's a restriction. You don't need to tie it into those ERVs over at that town station. He said, unless somebody was working, he says if you got somebody that's in there all day, every day, he says, okay, maybe. You know, this is a guy that, this is what he's done for 31 years. I trust him more than the engineer that probably learned it in a book or something. But I know you don't like to hear that, but I'm here for the Hooper residents, and it's too much. And I will not approve it, the budget amendment. I mean, we'd have to amend our budget, and we don't have the money.
Can I get it clarified, the budget amendment, so that 534 is for all three?
Yes.
Are we budgeting 160 for all three of those? So
Yes.
So it's 160 divided by 3, like 50,000 for each one is what, $50,000 for each lift station is what you think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's with no ducting, and that's what we were about 3 years ago. And that, I think it was 48,000, and he's saying about 50,000 for each one. I mean, the reality of it, plus the electrical, the reality of it is you cut 2 holes in there. The one hole is about, I'm just rough guessing, 2 foot by 3 foot, but the air's
that's going vertical that's about the same size. You build a stand, you mount it on there, you got some cement work under the stand, and then the electrician comes in and hooks it up. You know, and since all this took place, if we'd have done this back when he first come out, and whether he did it or somebody else done it, now there's been tariffs on all these air conditioners and heaters coming in from China and everywhere, and so there's been a 7-8% increase, and you know, and so now he's looking. You're probably, for the three of them, he just threw out a wild figure. I mean, this is all quick, you know, that it shouldn't be more than 200, 250,000, depending on what the electrical is going to be, because we don't know what the panels are now.
Do you have any thoughts, Larry, on if you need a 600 amp panel?
Yeah.
And did he factor in the heat generated by the pump? I guess it's similar to the ones that
Well,
our new system used.
That's what we don't know, how many amps those, I mean, if we went down and looked, I thought Jared would be here, but each one of those pumps, I'm assuming, is probably on its own breaker, and I don't know if it's, you know, a 20, 30, 40 amp. I don't, that's the thing, we don't know what the amperage is.
Not likely more than a
But
40, 50 amp breaker.
he did tell me, worst case scenario, if we had to go in and put in a 600 amp service in there, he says he couldn't imagine it being more than 350,000 without the ductwork.
With the ductwork,
Well, he said, he did tell me, he says with the ducting that you've got, he says 130 to 160,000 for ducting, and he just said that was asinine to even put that ducting in there.
And you did mention that he has 30 years experience, was that what it was?
31 years experience, but I know the circulation that we get in a 4,000 square foot, my brother sits in the corner of this and it's blowing this way. He's had to put up a wall because that air circulates so well through there. And he threw out something like that, air circulates every 10 seconds or something. I don't know what he meant by that for sure, but because I'm not a heating and air conditioning guy. But it just concerns me why $350,000 more. I got a problem with it.
So Tanner, maybe could you just briefly explain, because I know we've talked about before what these air conditioning units are for, maybe just to give us a little background of why we need these, because residents listening might think, is it to keep our employees? What is the functionality of all of this? If you would just maybe
You bet.
explain that.
Yeah, so this is an issue that we've been having for a while. It starts when they get an alarm in the middle of the night or whenever saying that this pumps are overheating. When that happens, the pumps shut down, and so then Darren usually gets out there and tries to he has called in some temporary cooling to come in to cool the place down. He's paying for that to just keep the system up and running. So this has happened before, and so then the solution that we first what we've done is Jared's called some local HVAC guys and say, hey, will you come look at this? They say, yeah, tell me how much you need, what you need, like that. Like they're more of, we install it, tell us what we need. And we couldn't tell them what we need, we're not experts in the subject, so we hired Heath Engineers to do a study for us. They came out here and looked at all of our equipment, the whole thing. They did a study, and it gave us the recommendation that we need they first told us that we have 5 tons of cooling in this building, and that we need at least 20 tons of cooling in this building. So we were 25% of what the building requires, and that's why things were often overheating and shutting down. So we got that recommendation from Heath, and then we also said to them, will you design it? This isn't a JV design, because that's not expertise. We went out and got these mechanical, electrical And, yeah, I got an email for someone different. I thought it was like Mike or something. I can't remember what the name of their company was. I sent it to that person. And thinking where I got that from, I'm not sure why that was that one, but yeah, I didn't get one in Brooklyn, but to say that he didn't get it, I mean, all these public projects are always posted, and so there is the opportunity to get it. It's like every other project we do, it's always out there for anyone in the public. But so then we got bidders interested. We were planning on getting 4, and we ended up only getting 2 on bid day. So we have 2 bids, and then this is what they came back with is $178,000 for each one. That includes the 4 different trades that are in there. There's mechanical plumbing, there's sheet metal, HVAC, and then there's the electrical, and then there's concrete trades that are all going into there. That's one thing that concerned me about this discussion we've had so far is it's one tradesman. It actually is a full-on project upgrade. Requires a general contractor, and the way the public procurement happens is with bid bonds and insurances and securities, which kind of leads me to the next subject about these lift stations. These lift stations, they're vacuum lift stations, so they create the vacuum. Normal pumps create heat, but the water flows through them, cools it down substantially. They don't usually come across these problems. We have a pretty unique problem in that we have a lot of vacuum pumps. We have 5 with room for 1 more, so 6. And they just create vacuum through the air, and so there's nothing that's cooling it down. So they create such substantially higher heat than normal pumps do. So in the case, I mean, the worry that Public Works has is that these overheating pumps happen again and it shuts down. And in the case of that,
Taylor, add just a little bit of color. Jared actually was just telling me the guys just had one shut down from a thermal overload. So I don't know what that means. They're hoping it'll kick back on as it cools off.
it's something that's happened today.
Just now. Yeah, they're hoping it'll kick back on as it cools off. But they just, if they get permanent damage, etc. And I don't share it, know more than me. I don't know what our backup situations are like. You might. But so they're just having some heating problems.
Yeah, I mean, when backup pumps, I mean, it's not generators, the pumps are down, so it takes months if they're permanently damaged, but the consequences of that are those 9,000 residents that we represent can no longer flush toilets, can no longer use any water, and it could, it's just catastrophic. It can be catastrophic. Public health, public safety is paramount in this, for this, so that's, if anyone takes on that, the person that stamped these plans, the Heath engineers that stamped those plans, they know that they're taking on liability if that thing fails. And so, yeah.
If what fails?
If the cooling system doesn't achieve the purpose of keeping the pumps running.
But a 5 ton's been getting them by for how many years?
So,
and we're increasing that by 4, and the airflow is just an incredible amount.
So
more.
For a lot of the years, there's been thermal injection pumps where we pumped up the groundwater, run it across the heating coils, I think, and then it goes back into the ground. And those were abandoned several years ago. I'm not sure, that was before my time when they were abandoned because there's a lot of permitting, there's a lot of when there's materials and water quality issues, when you're pumping that over it, this creates corrosion and sedimentation, so it became a maintenance problem that we couldn't handle, and so those have been abandoned. So that's why we're seeing at 5 tons of cooling, when that was never the intention. We were intended to be able to provide 20 tons of cooling, not 20 tons of cooling, but with the cooling injection to be able
Did Jared by chance mention which station? I know that the,
I believe you said it was the Lowe's station they're gonna be working on.
okay,
The Lowe's station had a wet pump, had a thermal issue. He just kinda wanted to relay that his perspective of the need, but not per se, you're not weighing in on this discussion as it relates to the bid, et cetera, just to relate to the need. We understand the perspective of the council and everything, but you just, that, you know, we do have a need here. So we gotta get resolved sooner than later, but hopefully, you know, we can have a healthy discussion and move it forward.
So when it comes to the bid, I mean, we did bid it out in a way where we have a priority, which is the north station. We can award it as in one project, 2 projects, or 3 altogether, depending on our budget. There's definitely ways to do value engineering, to go back, work with the engineers and say, we need these costs to come down, what are we comfortable with, what are we not comfortable with. And we'd save money, but I don't think we're gonna get as low as what has been said out here, but that includes the ductwork he's saying is something that the city wants to take it out. It's not my call, it's not my staff that's going on it, but that's the real question right there is who's gonna be liable if this doesn't get done correctly. And, yeah.
That's a good answer from an engineer company. I get it.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Engineers, we put safety factors on things, and at the same time we try to get this. There's this one saying when they're building a building, it's like we're not trying to make this building last forever. Like we're just trying to make it barely stand up, because that barely standing up is the
And there's a lot of things that are way over engineered in this country.
So I guess my question is, why wasn't Bridgerland, other than not having the vehicle to be able to bid on it, did they not know it was on the public website to bid on
Well,
it?
no.
Were they not allowed to bid on it? Why did they miss it?
Nobody ever told us that, and his thing is, he's got so much work, he really doesn't care if he gets this job or not. He just flat out told me, it's not a big deal to me, but the problem I have with Jared and JUB is, I asked this guy to come out here as a favor. Will you come out and look at this and give us your assessment? And then we don't have the courtesy to contact him and say, hey, this is going out to bid, come check our website and come bid on it. Nobody contacted me nor him. And that's also
I have a curiosity question regarding that. If you had to go actually solicit people to get bids, why this company was not one of the ones that was solicited?
That's a good point too.
I don't know why he went looking for some, and he'd already expressed interest, why he wasn't included in that.
And that being said, is it too late to get a bid from this company?
It is okay to take these bids. We haven't awarded anything. That's what we were trying to do today, is see if we wanted to award this or not. So nothing's been awarded. We can close the bid, say no one was a successful bidder, and we can go out and, I think the reasoning would be to say is that we don't have 3 competitive bids. It's kind of the standard. We only got 2. Send it out for a kind of a rebid process.
How long would that take?
It would take at least 3 weeks of having the bid open. That's kind of the standard, is advertise for it, let it sit for 3 weeks. So, I guess 3 weeks, that's asking for these guys to do more bid, to do another bid, bid bonds, securities, insurance process, going through that whole thing again, but.
Is it beyond the scope to ask this Heath company to reevaluate the assessment of the ductwork based on feedback? We're not going to go back and say re-engineer this, but could we explain the position and say, you know, we have conflicting feedback that maybe this is overkill. Is it overkill? Like, get like a recommendation.
We can go about the process of giving this award to A&K Sheet Metal and then saying we want to work with you on value engineering, get Heath Engineering to input, make some change orders, work with the contractor and get, see what they can reduce in price by doing stuff like that.
But only if we award it. We couldn't go back to them ahead of time prior.
We
to
can go
rebid
back
it.
and we can do a redesign, which wouldn't be a lot because it would be taking things out, but doing a redesign like that, new package, and then sending that package out would take 2 weeks, I guess, depending on work availability.
Well, this whole situation is a hard one, I feel like, and I'm sure council all feels the same, because I know they came in several times and said our pumps are overheating. We're going to Walmart to buy the biggest fan that they have. They've opened up doors I've driven by, which has been a concern to me when I see the doors open. So we have that concern. We want something fixed. It's more of a, nothing is permanent, but more of a long-term fix than it has been in the past. On the other hand, I also understand we are the stewards of taxpayer money, and this is a lot of money. Just one clarification, it would not be a budget amendment because we haven't approved a final budget yet. So we would have to, change our budget, and that would be something that we would be voting on. If we do go back to Heath, I think that could be a reasonable question. Is the ductwork necessary? But then, I guess my question is, and then who do we trust? Who can we say? None of us sitting up here are engineers. We do have to rely on that. That if Heath comes back and says, yes, you need to have ductwork, then is that something as a council we feel again justifying, or how do we know? Because not one of us sitting here, and I think you've even said this isn't JUB's expertise. And Jared, it would even tell you this isn't his expertise as far as air conditioning or any, as far as the power upgrade. So I guess I'm not sure how we up here come to some kind of a consensus of what should be done to make sure that what we're getting is the very best for the city, but also the most reasonably priced.
What's been explained isn't really comparing apples to apples, though, and that's the problem. I mean, what you're explaining, Larry, is different than what these other engineers have said is needed. So the question we have is, what is really needed? And who would put their stamp on that saying, if this fails, I am responsible for this? And
yeah, so one thing, the study that was done was by Heath Engineering, the design was done by Heath Engineering, so there's no verification on that. I mean, you can go pay for another engineering firm to review it. That's money spent by the taxpayer, and in my engineering practice, it's very hard to go on top of another engineer and overrule what they're saying, and then just for how much, like, if you pay me $20,000, now I'm taking on the liability is a really problematic.
So can they, can you ask them why the ducting? Why do we need the ducting? I mean, I haven't seen the drawing of, what was it, 288 pages? I'm on my phone. You just don't find that. How have you? I guess you've seen the ducting. Is it coming through the wall and down on top of each pump? Or?
No, it's not doing that.
Well, if it's not doing that, then the others is going to have so much flow anyway. So,
again,
you don't.
That's I don't know what to say right there. We get Heath on the phone and start talking to him.
Is it something that Malcolm can pull up and put on that screen what the ducting looks like?
I can pull it up on my computer if we want to.
Yeah. Can we?
I don't know if I understand.
We're not engineers, and we're not air conditioning people. So basically, an engineer has recommended a design, right? That design went out for bid, right? here's the specs that need to be bid on. We've had 2 companies bid on it. Bridgerland wasn't aware that they were able to bid on it in this time frame. So why don't we just say, let's reopen it for bid, because we didn't get 3 bids, and let them all bid again on it and see what we get. You know, here's the specs, here's what needs to be bid on. We can't change the ducting, we're councilmen, we're not engineers. You know, so our decision is, do we go with these bids or do we rebid it? That's our decision. Right?
And I think there was one other company, but then didn't turn in their bid or submit it. I thought I had heard there
Yeah.
were 3 originally.
There was supposed to be 4, and yeah, well, 4 possibly, but 3 we were counting on, and the third one didn't get a bid in time. The problem that we've had with bidding is this kind of process. It takes a general contractor to do it, or there's 4 different trades going on, and for most general contractors, it wasn't worthwhile for them to go after this kind of project. But the HVAC guys that were willing to do it were not willing to take on other trades, kind of thing. So it was hard to get interest on it.
But it does seem that we have another company that is potentially interested at this time, just hasn't had the opportunity to submit a bid. Would that be reasonable?
I would say the opportunity is there. If they are working through public procurement.
But you actually already said that you didn't, you had to go solicit bids, so soliciting 3 bids instead of 2 bids seems like, especially with this much money, wouldn't be a bad thing for the city.
I'm just wondering, and Darren, maybe it's a question for you. So now that these numbers are out there, so Larry, your friend comes in and bids it for $10 less. Do you know what I mean? How do you handle that? How do we, now that those numbers are already out there?
And I hear you, what you're saying. Look, can I ask you one question real fast? Can I go call Brooklyn and see if he even has interest in bidding it with the duct work and all this other stuff? He may not even want to, just from his comments about what he said about the duct work and all that. And if he has no interest in doing it that way, then maybe everything else is, then we got to decide whether we're going to.
So I'll answer first, start with Fowers, Councilmember Fowers. I mean, legally, we can do what has been proposed, that we can close them and reopen them. We can. We can say no. We can say no to these. Does it, I understand what you're saying, because now it's not closed, it's open. So, but we are giving each of these bidders the opportunity to go and readjust. They are all getting the same opportunity that a new person bidding would get as well. So I get what you're saying, how it looks. I think that's a fair concern, but legally we can do that.
If there's a change.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Now your question. Yeah, if you want to take time to go and have a
Just a
phone
minute,
call.
let me just even see if he's interested in.
I would say if there's significant changes in the design, then a rebid
So
would be fine.
I don't know if you want to take a recess or do you want to just have him?
Well, I would like to, I mean, he's going to make the call, but I guess I'd just like to say that I don't think that a particular company's interest and whether or not they're going to bid is going to inform my decision on whether or not it makes sense for the city's financial situation. You know what I mean? I wonder, is that seems too conflicting, right? Like just one specific company we're relying on whether they're interested or not, doesn't change the fact that it's $535,000 sitting on the table that we would still, I mean, we either have to agree that that's what the direction we want to go or we don't, right? And we have to agree whether or not we want to ask Keith to go reevaluate the ductwork, like Councilmember Hill said. Do we want to take the position that as council members we have the experience that we're trying to say we think you should get rid of the ductwork? Like, are we taking on that stand? And then additionally, I mean, I think of it for any other thing that we would be bidding. If my buddy wanted to do a job for us, I don't think I could expect us to make a decision as a council just to give them an opportunity to have a consideration of this, is all I'm saying. So I know that this company is somebody Larry knows and somebody that's bringing him a different perspective, but I'm curious, I'm interested because I'm surprised you said he could take that call and help us make this decision, because I would figure we would need to, well, can I call 5 other HVAC companies and see if they can help us make this decision? That's curious to me.
I would say, I mean, we follow procurement policy the way that it's supposed to be done.
Absolutely.
And I am a little, and the way that the conversation has gone is a little bit against that policy of finding someone that you know. I mean,
Yeah.
but I think a good recommendation, I mean, the recommendation of taking out ductwork, I don't know what that consequences are, but I think it's totally reasonable to say within this contract, now there's no ductwork, let's renegotiate the price.
Yeah, I think that that's a fair.
That's the direction I think we should go, is say, hey, we've had some, you know, I don't know what they call it, professional, but some
Redneck.
just some concerns come up about maybe the ducting was excessive or whatever. You know, can we go to Heath and say, can we revise this under your best professional opinion and rebid it?
Yeah, and so then, I mean, they're gonna, when they say that, they're like, all right, yeah, there's a certain level of comfort that you're comfortable with. Are you comfortable with 400 amp breaker? Because probably it does work, or are you willing to take that risk? And so someone, I don't know who's gonna take that decision, but
Can we ask them and then they say, and if they say, no, we're not, I mean, they could come back and go, look, we're not comfortable, this is how we say it should be engineered.
And what they'll do is they'll say, they'll keep a stamp on it, but it's just documented that saying the city assumed this risk, and if there is a risk, then.
And if that happens, I think we need to take legal advice on that. Do we want to make that assumption of that risk?
And who would want, I don't think Hooper City wants to take that risk, that's my whole point. I don't think we want to take the risk of, awarding a bid for something that we knew that right to begin with.
Well, you had mentioned earlier that if the city had concerns with the price, that you could go back to the engineer or whoever and say, hey, where can we cut? You know, we need to lower this price a little bit. So that's kind of what we're doing here, right?
Yeah. So I'll go talk to the Heath Engineering tomorrow and tell them about ductwork, probably the breakers, the amps, and see if there's that. We can see any reduction in costs, and see if there's anything else.
And we're not asking to do anything that they shouldn't, but my concern is, do we really need a 600 amp if we're only going to be using 400 amps? I mean, I would think if you've got a 600 amp service that, 540 amps, that's an awful lot when the 2 air conditioners are only taking 120 amps. You know, where's, I guess I just don't get why,
I mean, it's a lot of what else is going on in the building, right? The pumps, there's
Right.
a lot of different pumps, and they're just taking up a lot of the power as well.
So where this is a standing motion, do we just need to table this while Taylor goes back and asks Heath some questions and then bring it back, or do we need to vote on this as it stands?
That would be an option, you can table it.
I would say yes.
I move to table the motion on the approval of awarding bid to A&T Sheet Metal Inc. for HVAC upgrades North Low and Town Station pending JUB's conversation with Heath Engineering on seeing if we can modify and resubmit for bid.
Do you want to do a date certain? It comes on next council member?
The next council agenda, is that the,
That won't be until August 20th, and I'm wondering if that, so we're a ways out, if we want to then call a special meeting.
That's possible.
I think that,
yeah, I think it'd be necessary.
that would be prudent at this point in time. We need to get this dealt with.
Yeah.
We do have one advantage, the temperature's gonna back off a little bit, so that.
So I probably can't pick a date because the special meeting would be notified at that time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so can it stand as I said it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilmember Craig,
And I'll second that motion.
Second made by Councilmember Hill. Did we get all of that, Morgan, so we know what that will be?
Can I get that clear? We're talking to them about finding value engineering, or are we talking to them about redesigning and going out for another bid?
We're talking to them about both, right? So they're looking at value engineering and or redesigning, taking the ductwork out and going for another bid.
So what you're asking, then, if they come back with some value engineering, you would like it to go back out to bid and let other companies bid it?
That's
Or
right.
you're saying you want to go back to this lowest bidder and see what they would bid it for if we took that out?
Yeah, I would like it to go back out to public open bid, because we didn't get the 3 anyway, we only got 2. So it'd be nice, I'd like it to go back out to open bid.
And I'd like to put the pedal to the metal, because we need to get this taken care of.
So
And Ray,
what-
are you seconding that motion for it to go out to bid? I just want to clarify this so okay, now
Yes,
discussion.
So if they come back and they re-engineer this, and this is it A&T or whoever, the sheet metal company, if they come back and say, well, yeah, we can cut out 150,000 if we don't need all that ducting, if we don't need that much electrical, do we want to accept that bid or still go out?
I think we're doing that out to open bidding, right? Because we still, the part of the issue was we still didn't get 3 bids. So, I mean, it would be outside of the normal procurement process anyway, so we would want to try.
I don't think that's in our policy. It's
They're
other
qualified
cities.
bidder, so I think we'd still be okay if it came back as 2.
Yeah, I don't think that's what, other entities hold stricter to that, but that's not ours.
Well, then I guess that's up for discussion. Like, do we want it to go back to companies to bid? I think that we should be able to give like A&T, say, hey, the bid has changed. You get a chance to rebid this and stack them against other people. But do we just keep that to the 2 that already submitted a bid with a redesign? Or do we give it open to public?
So I got a hold of Brooklyn, and he says with 600 amp service and with all that ducting, he says it's not needed. He doesn't want to bid on it. So,
Right, but if it changed, would he want to?
yeah, if it changed, then yeah, if it didn't have all that ducting and that he doesn't think is necessary. I don't even know if he just told me no, that he doesn't want to bid on it. So I think he's a little frustrated, but and his pride was hurt that he come out to Hooper and did that initial, and I think that's a little bit of him saying no now, is that you treated me bad.
Well, I just think of the residents of Hooper, we own a little bit to look into this. We're talking a couple $100,000 here. I don't think we should take that lightly. And if we have some options that we might be able to reduce that a little through them reevaluating some things,
So,
I would like to see
one
that.
thing, I mean, the process that if we were to set this, we'd say notice of award, contract, and then notice to proceed. And we're not looking to contract or notice to proceed, but if we issued a notice of award, and we're not going out for rebid, but that's really when A&T is going to be comfortable, like, working with this, knowing that they have the award, on any value engineering. That might save us time, is what I would like to see, but
I think at this
if you
point,
go through bid and noticing the work would be bad, and then just,
I appreciate it. At this point, I made the motion, so we need to vote on it as it stands, I think. And then if we want to change that. But I mean, I'm still, the motion still stands as made that we would have you go back and talk to Heath Engineering. So,
And that's where we're at, is, I think we proceed with the value engineering, see where we're at, pause, and then decide at that point if we're gonna rebid it or not. You know, if we're happy or comfortable with the value engineering, like Larry said, then we just move on with the bids that we have currently.
So the motion that was made by Councilmember Craig was for it to go out to bid. When you seconded it, Councilmember here, were you seconding it for it to go out to bid? And now are you,
If
how
necessary.
do we do that?
so the motion was made to table this motion.
Couldn't we just table this motion?
Yeah, we
just
And
table it.
then come back with the information that we gather from the engineer to
Yeah.
make a decision on the motion?
Correct.
The motion just stands as tabling of this motion. I don't think we're taking any other action.
Okay, just tabling the motion, we're not adding any kind of,
We're asking our engineer to go and do those things. Will you go do those things?
I will do this.
okay, so the motion then has been tabled, motion for table and seconded, there's been discussion, any further discussion before we vote?
So if we need to call a special meeting, we'll do it at that point, once we
Yes.
get the information back.
Yes,
Because I'm in agreement, we need to move the cart.
yeah. Okay, so all in favor of that motion and second?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for your work on
That was
this.
the next one too.
Yes, okay, so yes, if you'll explain this with us.
Okay, yeah, I'll explain this just a little bit. So, this is part of a need of our sewer that we need to construct a force main on 5100 West. Because right now we currently get it into West Haven, goes through their system, but they've told us to get out of it, so we gotta keep our own system. On 5100 West, get the sewer from the east area up to 4000 South, where it can be combined with the other force mains we have. So we've been designing this. Simultaneously to that, what's been going on is the roadway construction on 5100 West. And well, you've been out there, you see a lot going on. And now they've said like this could save a lot of time, money, and it's overall quality of the product if we did this in conjunction with that road project. We agree with that. What we want to do is construct a portion of the force main that would get out of that intersection, and then probably about 200 feet out of that intersection. Just pause the project there and wait for the rest of the project funding to go. So what we're doing right now is asking for partial funding for the small portion that can be done in conjunction with the roadway project on 5100 West. That makes sense.
So to make sure I understand you right, this would be from 4,000 north,
4,000 South.
coming back south.
In the intersection of 4,000 South is where we had to do some a lot of the project and get out right away. And then we're gonna build 200 feet out, basically, to stay out of what's going on in that project. But the whole length of the project is, I think, 6,000 feet or something.
And you ultimately anticipate this would save the city some money to do this portion right now rather than redoing it down the road?
It will save money, as in the fact that we got the contractor already mobilized, part of that project. And one good thing about it is the quality of the road that's being reconstructed. We don't want to make a really nice road and come back with less than a year and cut it open, which costs money.
Sounds like a great idea.
So the total cost of that project we first estimated to be about $1 million. So this small portion of it, which is the hardest part of it, is I estimated to be about $350,000, or I think 388. So that's kind of what we need immediately to get that going.
So that 388 would be deducted off of that initial portion, and it wouldn't exceed it.
Yeah. But we do have to, that was my estimate. We just want to work with Staker, give them our design, and they have to give us the cost of what that would be.
Now, did I understand right that we have a grant for that?
Yes, that's part of this that we're hoping that, could go along with this and also that regional lift station. But I think from meeting with Staker Parsons, which I did this week, they're just like Taylor mentioned, why do we want to pour a new road, then come within and then dig it back out? And again, Cammie said that if we approve this, we do not have to do amended a budget. She could do that when we do our final budget, which would be in August.
So we actually, I'm a little confused there, so we actually have a grant, or this would be part of the CRA grant that you're talking about?
So they're two different things that could be related. So we received grant money from Blake Moore's office for $1.5 million that we haven't specifically designated for anything yet. It could be used for this. It also could be used because this could be part of the CRA, because in order to have that regional lift station, that sewage, it will hook into this force main.
But again, this could be independent independent of this CRA.
Yes.
We could use part of that money for this.
Sure, we can just use $1 million and pay for this. Or like we mentioned, if we do end up doing the CRA, we could put that $1 million towards our portion rather than us.
And you are fairly confident the grant's gonna come through?
So the only holdup, so it's going to the federal government for appropriations. They have to meet to approve a budget. If the budget doesn't get approved, which has happened, then that might be one that they axe out. But if approved budget, that's the final amount that we're getting. That part's decided.
How soon do you have to know?
We hope to get this done, half Staker doing it in a month from now. So
if we don't have the grant yet, then we're just paying out of the budget, is the idea, right? Like, it's just, the reality is, say the grant,
Either way.
So yeah.
say the grant doesn't get approved, we're gonna pay out of the budget we have today. So it's gonna come out of
Our
project.
Yes, project.
A capital project, because this is something like we talked about in board meeting that does have to be done. We are way over capacity, what we should be. The only thing, and when I met with them this week, they said that they should be to 4,000. They're hoping by August, I think it was 4th, 5th, and 6th. So we really do only have till a few weeks. They want to know, because they're holding, when they get to that point, they will hold up the project if we are going to do this. If not, then they move on, and then we end up digging up the road later.
Derek, can I ask you a question? You said the West Haven said we gotta get out of their sewer. What's that actually mean? West Haven said we gotta get out of their sewer. What if we say no? I mean, literally, like, what have they said to us? What are we legally obligated to do? What is the time frame in which we have to do that? Is it just at this point a friendly, hey, will you get out of our sewer? Or is there an actual action that is forcing us to?
I would have to take some time to research that specifically, but
Maybe we ought to charge them, because I think this pipe's on Hooper City property, it's on our side of the border.
it's their property. They have right to their property. They have a right to exclude people off their property. But I would have to look to see if we have any.
We have a wheeling agreement, must have been a long time ago. And I was told that we've tried renewing that, and they've always kind of said, we're good, don't worry about it. So there's an expired agreement, is what I'm understanding.
I'd have to look at that to really advise you on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious of our actual obligation to this. I mean, not speculating or anything, just like what do we have to do, what time frame? Because that might pressure this project, or it might relax it.
So the last interlocal agreement we have signed was signed on June 3rd, 2004. And we have not done a current one since then, and at that time we signed that, had the 600 homes cap. And as I mentioned, we're now to 975. So we do not have a legal agreement with West Haven to even allow us to be there. We have just been paying a leaving fee.
But do we have like a cease and desist, or do we have like an order by them?
No, because they're a community that's right next to
Sure,
us.
no, I
and-
know that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering legally obligation, like what are we're imposing, we're saying like, hey, let's go add $300,000 to our budget to do this right now. We may or may not get a grant to pay for this, we're gonna go ask taxpayers for more money, but we may not even have a pressure. If it's a perceived pressure, like, yeah, and we're a community next to them, so I think that's also cuts both ways. We could say, hey guys, we're a community next to you, we don't really have this money, so are we doing this because it's like, we're being nice, or is it something we really need to do?
What can you explain again to what the perceived pressure is? What are they saying to get? Did they give a time frame? Did they give?
Do you want to say something?
So I first became aware of this 2 years ago when we received this wheeling fee bill, which we didn't have any idea what it was. So then when I went and asked, what is this bill? Because I was asked, what is this bill? And we were supposed to pay this check, and we hadn't paid. The last one we had paid was back in June of 2023, and then we received a bill that was probably June of 2024 that showed Leo this amount that was over $33,000, which we didn't know. That's when I went and asked. The engineer over there at that time said, yes, you need to get out. their public works director was over the sewer, said, well, we'll work with you, Hooper. We talked about it in the budget season of 2024. They were aware that the council was, this needs to be done. We didn't have the money, let's put it off to 2005. Came back, budget, let's talk about it, same as similar this year. So it's something that we have known now. So when we say urgent, what is urgent? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? I don't know, but it is something that we know that does need to be done. And then we didn't put it in the budget this year because then we talked about, well, if we get this grant, we could use that. If we do a CRA, we could use that money.
I'd agree with what she said, and then, I mean, once the Smith and the East area and all those homes get tied into here, I think that's when things are urgent. There's not gonna be capacity for those many additions.
Yeah, but that's a lot of assumptions, right? That's assuming the Smiths is gonna happen, that's assuming, that's assuming we're getting a grant. So what I'm saying is I'm trying to measure in realities here, and the reality is, we have known for a long time that we're in West Haven sewage. Yes, we probably should get out of that. Do we put a $300,000 obligation to our budget to make sure we do that right now? Is West Haven even asking that? I get an engineer or an employee or somebody said it. As West Haven City Council, as an attorney, has anybody legally obligated us to get up?
If that is a liability, if they decide tomorrow that they want to exclude us from it, then that is, they can exclude us. I just would want to look at the agreement on how soon they can do it, if there's anything there, so.
I mean,
And the
if we've
reason
been
for the-
paying, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the reason for the urgency now is because of the blacktopping of the road.
Okay.
We probably would have,
Sounds
we would have probably waited, you know, Taylor, they've been working on getting this engineered. I think we thought we probably had more time. We could have waited to see if we get the grant, if we do the CRA, but now they are to this project, and if you look down 5100, you're going to see where they have stopped with the curb, gutter, and sidewalk, because they said, we need to know what we're doing at 4,000. If you're going to come in and put in, and I don't remember now, you would know that whatever, it's not a T, it's some kind of a valve. We need to know, if you're doing that now, then we'll hold up, we'll give you a chance to put that in. If you're not going, they're not saying we have to do this right now, we're saying, do we want to do it before they pour the road, then we re-dig up the road for us to do it if that is 6 to 9 months down the road.
Sure, and Mayor, with all due respect, this is all connected to a reality that we have a sewage system that is aging, that is horrible, that we shouldn't be in the first place, but we are in it. And it connects to the CRA discussion, it connects to these pump house discussions, it connects to this tearing up the road discussion because of the type of system, because of what we have, because of the infrastructure failing. And I 100% agree we gotta fix it. I just don't believe it's a convenient discussion for us to continue to go to the citizens of Hooper and say, let me reach in your pocket and spend more money. We continue to do that. I mean, it's like, we're going to raise your taxes for the sheriff. We appreciate the sheriff. We're going to raise the taxes for that. We don't want to have to do that. We're going to raise your taxes for this, for that. But I mean, it's just continuously asking our citizens to hand more money out of their pocket. And look, every time I go to the store, my daughter says, hey, I want that. And I say, what money are you going to spend it with? And she points at me and says, with my money. So I understand asking somebody else to spend the money for you. I just don't think that we can continue to do this to the citizens over and over. We've talked about it 3 times across 3 separate things tonight, and our budget isn't even finalized. So what's it going to look like by the time we finalize it?
Just so you understand too, and we brought this up in word meeting, this is separate than the vacuum stations. This has to do with the lift station, the gravity, none of these go through those.
But it's still like sewer. I'm just saying infrastructure, like we recognize that we have a failing infrastructure system that we got to attend to. And so, I don't know, when I go to somebody and I say, hey, this is going to cost this much money and we're going to ask you for this much money, and then 2 months later I go back to them and say, hey, just kidding, it's going to cost you $300,000 more. Hey, by the way, just kidding, it's going to cost you $300,000 more. I feel like it's hard for me to look our citizens in the eye and tell them that we're done spending their money.
So one thing you need to understand is we are a city. We have been a city now for almost 26 years. The health department came and told us we had to hook into a sewer, and so we did. Maybe the time is we need to look at as a city, what are we going to do then to start alleviating some of these revenue shortfalls that we have? We are going to have sewer. We are going to have water. We have to. That's just part of being a city, is having infrastructure costs.
Yeah, and I don't need to understand that. I do understand that we're a city. But I also understand that I've got people that are citizens who elected me that are sitting in the Silver Saddle subdivision telling me that their basements are flooding with sewer because of our infrastructure. Decisions that we've made as a city, we need to continue, but it's easy to go say, we're gonna make a law, or we're gonna charge you money for it, because none of us are reaching in our own pocket. We're reaching in the pocket of the people who elected us, and I don't take it lightly, and I think we need to be very clear of our plan of doing that.
Well, just, a little clarification with this too, as some little pre-planning would have been done. Like I mentioned, we were supposed to have been paying $250 a sewer impact fee to even connect, which we have not. If there would have been some pre-planning, and every time one of these houses hooked into this force main, we would have, so we have 975 homes. If we would have each charged them the amount we should have, we could have that pocket of money sitting there to pay for this. Well, we didn't. So now we're in a situation, and what this is tonight, do you want to approve this to do this now, or we don't, and then we just wait down 9 months? It could even possibly be a year, and then we dig up a newly paved road. That's what our decision needs to be tonight. If you want this done now, then this needs to be approved, or we wait and do it later and still have to do it, but then we're digging up a road.
It's still gonna have to be done either way, right, basically?
So let me throw another assumption into your assumptions, is that we're assuming that when SR 177 comes through this corridor, that they're not gonna totally tear up the entire thing and throw it all away and redo it. And how is that gonna affect our infrastructure and our sewer system and all those other questions about a major freeway coming through? We don't know. We have no idea right now. And so I'm kind of with David too on this obligation to West Haven. We've been told one thing and told another thing, and legally, what is our legal obligation to West Haven with this contract, with this wheeling fee, with all these things? Are we supposed to get out tomorrow, in 5 years? Do we get to stay in? Nobody knows what really is the deal with this trunk line going down 5100 West. We've been sharing it, yes. We've been paying a wheeling fee, then we haven't been paying the wheeling fee. Do we get to stay in? You see what I'm saying? There are so many questions legally with this sewer line. I'm not ready to spend $300,000 with all these unanswered questions.
Right, and in years past, this never came up. The wheeling fee was paid, and this was never brought to our attention. All of a sudden, we missed paying the fee, and now we've got to get out. That's the part from here to now you've got to get out. That in-between part is the part I don't get. I don't understand how we got to where we are today when that wasn't the case just a couple of years ago.
Have we ever paid the connection fees?
Of what?
Have we ever paid the connection fees to us there?
The only thing that was required was that wheeling fee.
I don't know if that is true though, because this is one, and I had another copy that was actually Dell, you had signed, and it shows about the 250 and goes through the homes. So I think you were aware of this, at the wheeling fee and the connection, and if anybody would have ever looked, so I can't really use, I don't think we should be able to use the excuse that said we didn't know, because we have this interlocal agreement that was signed, so someone should have known.
I'm not saying we didn't know, but it was never discussion because the fees were paid. That's
Partial paid, but none of the maintenance fees were paid, the connection fee wasn't paid, and from what I was told, every time that there was someone that worked at West Haven said, oh, we can worry about this later. Well, but again, we are a city and there has to be legal things. Then maybe if you don't want to do this force main, we will never be able to put anything else into it. So there can't be any further development along East Hooper or 5500 because West Haven has said they're not going to let us continue to hook into this where we're already 375 homes.
When and how did they say that?
So
when you say West Haven, did their council, did their attorney, when and how was it
No,
said?
it was an engineer, their public works. So we can go back to them if you want to and see if they're willing to sign an interlocal agreement with us again.
I wouldn't recommend us proactively going back and stirring up the pot on anything. I think that we need to see if West Haven is coming to us to ask us something. If we're paying the wheeling fees, they're accepting the payments, and we're moving forward. I feel like the contract's enforced. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't feel like we've gotten any
I just want to say that I agree. I don't think we've been told to leave, but from what it sounds like, there's not an agreement that stops them from telling us to leave.
Sure.
So that is my concern.
So have we been told to leave is the question.
It doesn't-
Legally, is there something in writing saying, Hooper, you have 30 days to get out? You know,
I would have to, what was it doesn't sound like we've received any such
No, there
notice.
wasn't any legal thing. It was a matter of their engineer and their public works saying, Mayor, we are willing to work with you. We will give you some time to work on this. We're not going to tell you to get out in a month. But it's been 2 years now that they have said that. We're willing to work with you.
So it sounds like they're being good neighbors, but I'm just letting you know that if there's not an agreement in place, I'm concerned that they could potentially.
Sure. They could.
And I think we've discussed this in several council meetings about having to do this. This isn't a brand new topic. We are talking about doing a sports main along 5100. The thing that is brand new is, do we want to do this small section to get us out of the right of way? Or we don't have to. They're going to pave that road whether we do this now or not. Just then we will later on, if we do this, then we will be digging out a new road.
Taylor, can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
So you say it will save us a little bit of money. What's a little bit? I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands tonight, and so.
Yeah, we're saying mobilization.
You take my.
Yeah, good. But mobilization, which is arguable because they either mobilize now or they're immobilized later. I mean, so there's probably $20,000 that could be saved potentially.
What about redoing the asphalt too?
But oh yeah, there's some asphalt about only 200 feet. That would be about another 10 or 20, so I'd say 40 grand.
And we really don't know if it's gonna be 6 or 9 months, or the way things work in the world nowadays, is it 2 years?
Well, we know it's been 22 years. Right, it was 2004 when the agreement was signed. It's been 22 years. So
But I would really worry against the assumption about what's going to connect on in the east area, because if that's within 1 or 2 years, there's going to be a capacity issue. There's going to be sewer coming out of the ground, so
sure.
that's when it becomes a big issue for me.
What's your recommendation?
I would do it, I guess. I feel confident that there's funding. Well, I guess my recommendation is you're going to get $1.5 million. What are you going to do with it? If this is the priority, I'd put it into this. I feel confident that that's a month away, 2 months away maybe, of being 100%. And then what are you going to do with it then?
And I know
Somewhere else. Then
if we had $1.5 million, I would agree with you. We don't have that. Well, because if and the federal government has shown over and over that they don't pass budgets and that they cut things and they go back and forth on what's private land and public land. I mean, we see this change, especially with this administration. Things can change back and forth every day. And so I think that it's important that, I don't know, I will confidently say to you that if you were a citizen of Hooper, I would not reach into your pocket on something that I couldn't guarantee.
So I guess the question is, then, are you thinking this is a project we don't ever do? Because we have discussed this as a city council.
No, I think that's probably extreme. I think that is something that we should do when we have the money to do things. I think that it's a very reasonable thing to say that we will do the things we can do when we have the money to do them, and we'll try to create economic opportunity for us to grow and be able to afford to do more things as a city. But this was planned as part of the budget later. Right? It's not, you're asking for the money sooner.
Yeah, I was asking, do you have $300,000 in project budget? I mean, it would take it from somewhere else, but is there money in there to do it?
So they took fund balance and moved money over. So she said there is money that we can use now. Then when we got that money, then we would just put that back into the capital projects fund. Or we can wait and, like you said, till we have the guaranteed money. And then another thing we probably should be doing legally in the meantime then is we probably need to get some legal documents drawn up with West Haven and see if they are willing to even let us. I suspect them being good neighbors, they'll say yes, but how much time are they going to give
Sure.
us?
No, I agree.
2 years, 3 years? But we do know if we do any growth at all in East Hooper, this has to be done first.
Right.
So this is just a matter of do we want to do it before they pave the road, or we pave the road and then dig up the road?
Yeah, and if we get growth in East Hooper, maybe it's an option for us to have a development agreement with somebody who's doing the growth to say, help us fix this cost.
There you go.
Well, with that then, does someone want to make a motion then? There's a motion on to approve the partial funding for the sewer force main portion included in the 5100 West project.
I'll make a motion to table the 5100 West Sewer project pending more information on the $1.5 million grant from the federal government.
So just a clarification, then that you just need to not vote this because they have to know by August 15th and we probably won't know by August 15th.
Okay, I'll change my motion. Let's make a motion to deny funding the $388,000 for the 5100 sewer project.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second was made by Councilmember Fowers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Did everybody vote? Okay, thank you. Okay, then we will let Staker Parsons know and they'll just go ahead and complete their project. The last thing then, we do not need to have a possible closed door meeting. We had some things that we have not received yet, so we won't be doing that. And so then the last thing would be just a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask one more question to Taylor about, can we go back and talk about that, those pumps? You said that if we go with this
Do you want to just
engineering,
recall the issue again? So we'll just call it up even though a motion's been made, but, yeah.
Okay, so we are going to recall an issue that was tabled as far as the HVAC system for our sewer lift stations. Do I need to have a motion to do that?
No.
Okay.
so you made the comment, these guys will guarantee, so if a pump goes out, they're gonna replace it, a $20,000 pump?
There's a guarantees, a weird word to say, I think, but they do hold liability for if their design is not adequate. It's pretty hard.
So you can't prove that it wasn't adequate.
It's gonna be pretty hard to do.
So basically, it's really no guarantee.
I mean, yeah, in the words of guarantee, it's not.
Okay.
It is, a stamp on it is liability, and when there becomes loss of life or property damage, then maybe that's when you can get lawsuits in place, but just to say.
So really, it's, okay.
It'd be a lawsuit.
So if I understand, maybe, so if they stamp this and say, according to our standards, you need to have X amount of units to keep this cool, then we put in that amount and it's not enough, and one of our pump overheats causes damage, which causes that pump to fail, we have sewer damage in residents, they would be liable if we did it just like they told us to do and we still had pumps that overheated, they would be liable. There could be other things that certainly could make a pump fail, but if it was due to overheating, due to lack of air conditioning, that's, I would think, was where their liability would lie.
But it'd still take a long legal battle because they follow processes that are standard.
Well, and they're dealing with really used pumps too, so I'm not sure how much they're gonna want back those suckers that are already got issues.
So bottom line is there's really no guarantee, but okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, now is there a motion to adjourn?
Do we need a motion to retable that? Since it was brought back, okay.
No.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, motion was made by Councilmember Craig. Is there a second?
Second.
Second made by Councilmember Hancock. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Recording